824.
824. Yeah.
824 referral.
So it has, have proposals come in on it, or this has to happen first?
They want proposals out for
Has that been advertised?
Yes, but no proposals yet. It's,
Why are
So
we?
why are we doing that?
we have to do an 824 referral to give back to the selectmen so they can put it out to,
Oh, okay,
So,
I didn't hear about that.
essentially.
Okay. All right.
We're
Ready to
good.
go?
Just-
All right. We've got 7:02. Call the June 26th Planning and Zoning meeting to order. George Clausen, the chairman, Peter Marchand, the vice chair, John Cooney's absent excused, Craig Sandins next to me, Willie Platt, Troy Lemire is absent excused, Charlene Lavoy, Adam Quagliaroli. Since John is out, he's not available tonight. I'd like to appoint you for tonight during the meeting, so we've got 5. So the next thing is public comment. Do we have anything anybody has to, yes, ma'am?
Candace Bouchard, 135 Riverton Road. I've been reviewing, thank you for seeing me, commissioners. I've been reviewing the zoning regulations, section G, sign types, beginning on page 43 to see if I understand our regulation and when zoning enforcement would be involved. In 2020, the town of Winchester received a grant from Charlotte Hungerford Hospital Healthcare Building Healthier Communities program. As part of that grant, the town received a sum of $150,000 specifically to be used to help improve the commercial building stock that will help attract more business growth in town, which has led to the creation of the facade improvement program that was announced in January of 2022. In addition to $100,000 was added for round 2 through the American Rescue Plan Act. The town awarded qualifying companies $250,000 in forgivable loans in rounds 1 and 2 against those businesses' investment plans for their property totaling over $1.5 million. After all the work the town and these businesses are doing to improve facades on commercial buildings and staffed with a full-time zoning enforcement officer since 2021, I wonder why new businesses are not following our regulations. I understand for the regulations that this commission reviews new business signage as part of its site plan. Existing businesses go to the zoning enforcement officer to approve additional replacement signs. 9D says that signs must be constructed of quality material, firmly supported, maintained in good condition, and repair, and removed when the purpose for which they were erected no longer exists, i.e. Railway Cafe, Second Home, Annie Sinard, Real Estate, Wild One, Mad River Music, JB Appliance, New James, I could go on. Why are the newest businesses not creating signage of similar quality? We have tarps on our buildings. It's not acceptable. And we even have one that's stapled or affixed a vinyl banner to its building. There's no requirement in our zoning regulation to define the material they are made of, other than it be of a sturdy product. If not, at least 4 new businesses on Main Street are non-compliant, 244, 246, 314 North Main Street. One business has a 3x3 wooden sign in a window and is not affixed to the metal frame on the roof where the sign used to be at one time, 492. After approval, does zoning enforcement officer verify that each business created a sign to the approved signage plan? Feather flags. Do we need to have regulations for the 8x2 foot feather flags? Is that considered additional signage for a business? Are corporate retailers exempt from our regulation? I do see that corporate retailers and some of the other businesses put them up and take them down. It's challenging to keep track of the number of new feather flags on our Main Street. They all move and pulse of the wind. Some even block the visibility of oncoming traffic when they're trying to exit. It's concerning that some are installed outside their business property line on town-owned property when they have 6,200 square feet of parking lot where they could easily place for the 32 not to exceed 60 days for new business openings. I now see lawn signs all over town on town property, not not budget signs or reason. On our historic green medians, bump outs, where that business is not even adjacent to. You know, 9G gives the zoning enforcement officer the authority to remove all of these and any signs that are not maintained or erected in accordance with the provisions of the section. Are these issues enforceable? What do we want our Main Street to look like? Thank you.
Hey, Candace, can you leave us that or a copy of that?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you have a copy? Do you have a copy? Yes. Yeah, all right, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir.
William Pozo, 155 Newfield Road. I was gonna speak to you last time, you told me to wait till tonight.
Okay.
So, regarding ECAD, as we all know, there's still some outstanding questions I'd like to see if we could get resolved tonight. One is the punch list, that I believe he was given a date of August 20th to complete.
Got a copy of it here.
Okay. And the question regarding that is, are we gonna issue a permit for more building before we complete that list? 2, hours of operation. I've been pushing, Lance's crew, and I spoke to the selectmen about some type of enforcement for this. You guys had put a restriction of, 8 AM to 6 PM. I have several neighbors here that can attest that some mornings that they're as early as 5:15, 5:20 in the morning. We have vehicles coming down the road till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. Multiple cars. Again, I know you were told in the past, there's a couple of cars a day on this property. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of cars.
A day?
A day. Multiple trips, just up and down. Which brings me to my next point, fencing. I forwarded to Lance, I believe you guys have in the folder. There's a regulation for non-residential use properties in Winsted that setbacks must be 35 feet from abutting neighbors. The fence line on all abutting neighbors, if we have 6 to 8 inches, we're lucky. Most of the fence on my property is literally on my property line. My property is defined by a 100-year-old stone wall that divides the properties. And when Bill Eichner was originally constructing this, he actually did give me the courtesy coming over, Bill, can I move a rock here to put a fence post in? And at the time, I was unaware of the setback. I allowed him to do it. About a month ago, I had a car sometime during the night lose control coming down the thing, took out about a 40-foot section of fence, went right up over the stone wall. It's since been put back up without the privacy screening, and we did secure a couple nice 2x4s to hold the fence back up, which to me is unacceptable. I know you're gonna have a tough time pushing that road, 35 feet over.
Is that this picture?
That would be that picture, yeah. It's since been, like I said, they propped a couple 2x4s up and jacked it up in the air.
Okay.
Again, guys, I'm in the middle of Winchester Center. I've been here for 35 years.
Sure.
We got stuck with this commercial business. We should have never had it, but it was allowed to go through. It was gonna be a small kennel. My problem with the road, now again, when you guys approved it, I understood the approval because originally when he came in for that driveway, this was for a single-family residence up there. And then he changed midstream, we're gonna put a building up, which doesn't fit the neighborhood it was supposed to. You guys have been up there and seen it. It's a Butler building. But that kinda negates the driveway. It should be a 35-foot setback. If we can't move it, if that driveway can't be moved, I would request that myself and all abutting neighbors be afforded a proper fence, say a 10-foot solid wood fence surrounding the entire property. I've had twice since the last meeting, his dogs, it's always my animals, right, go over his property. His dogs have been on Mr. Orban's property, who did file a complaint with the police department, had the dog warden up there. They've been to the other abutting neighbors. I'd like to see this commercial business, if we can't get a setback on this, what's gonna become a road now, correct, not a driveway, at least a 10-foot solid fence, decent side facing all abutting neighbors, and there's gotta be some kind of buffer there, so he can maintain that fence as well. The other night, he was up inspecting the fence on the other side, and apparently the neighbor's dogs came out, and he had to run back around the other side of the fence because the invisible fence, they couldn't get across it. So we have that, and then, again, we're talking the road. Okay, it was approved for a single-family residence. I still have yet to get from the building department or anything, a set of engineered drawings for this road. We have sketches, we have drawings, but I have not seen the engineering on this road. This is, to my memory, 1,400 feet from Newfield Road up to these buildings. We have no drainage engineering that I can find. If you guys know of it and Lance can forward it to me, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the same list of concerns we've had all along here, so I'm just seeing if we can make a little headway.
Once we open this up, we've got some discussions prior to opening it up, because we've got some existing conditions that have not been adhered to. And there's an effort now, because there's never a CO given on this property.
Correct, and I was the one that discovered that, correct?
Yeah, well, thank you. We were told there was a temporary CO, and it wasn't the case. So we've got a lot of issues that are on notes and sheets here that Lance has provided for us. So, but hopefully you'll be able to stay, if you've got some issues, because
We
once
will.
it gets described and you have questions about it, this is what the hearing is about.
We will, and two other things, if I could make a quick point. One is the signage on Newfield Road that all of a sudden went up on the house. I mean, we had approved originally the signpost, correct? That was there, the small, I believe, 2-foot by 4-foot sign. Now we have a sign on the front of the home facing Newfield Road. So it's basically like driving by a mini mall in Winchester Center. And the dumpster, which again, you had asked in the past for it to be moved. It was moved. A week or two after the last building inspector was up there and looked at it, it got moved and put right back. And again, it's right in view of the abutting neighbors. Kitchen window, basically, so it's a nice view for breakfast.
Okay.
But I appreciate your time, the
Thank you.
concerns.
Thanks for being
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Chris Roberts. I live at 151 Newfield Road, and I'm a new player up in Winchester Center, having grown up in Winsted and moved back recently. I brought some pictures to kind of show my concerns, which match with what Bill has said. My property is right, is it south? I don't know what it is. It's right before ECAD. So my side porch is about 4 feet from the property line, and their driveway with no setback probably is 4 feet 2 inches from my porch. The high traffic that Bill brought up, and you had asked about, is there 12 cars a day? There's probably several dozen cars a day, and they start as early as 5 a.m. because I'm up early, my husband is up early, we're on that porch, and the traffic begins. Cars are coming down from that upper building as late as 9:30, 10 o'clock, 7 days a week, holidays, Mother's Day, Memorial Day. From what I understand, the building up above is allocating about 40 spaces for vehicles. The down driveway probably has room for maybe 15 or 20. Now, if you're building something that requires that many parking spaces, you can't tell me that that's not high traffic in a rural, residential, bucolic area. Now, I support what ECAD does. I support everything about that. But I also support myself and my neighbors with trying to maintain the integrity of Winchester Center and what makes it so unique. I didn't buy a house downtown on Main Street. I didn't buy a house on one of the side streets. I chose to live in Winchester Center because of my history with the town, my understanding of the neighborhood, and I'm trying to maintain that. Now, I spoke with Dale today, and he told me that he was willing to put up a privacy fence along our common border. Now, what he says is a privacy fence, and what I say is a privacy fence, and everybody in this room can be very different. What I would like to see is I would like to see this commission, I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong terminology, be very specific in the language of what you tell anybody in town to do. A privacy fence, suggested, recommended. I spoke with Lance about using verbiage that's very specific so we all understand what is expected of us. And I don't think that that's crazy to do. I don't want to see a chain link fence with little green plastic strips in it. That's not the Winchester Center that I think that we all support and encourage. I want to work with Dale. I don't want to be there with my pitchfork and my torch, you know, trying to run him out of town. I looked at their financials. I'm a tax accountant, and they have over $3 million in assets. They have over $1.2 million in revenue every year. Their last tax filing in 2021 showed almost $500,000 in cash. So this is not a cash issue for them, which most nonprofits will call, we're poor, we're a nonprofit. Nonprofit only means the board of directors can't profit from the activity. Doesn't mean that they can't make money, and they do. So I would like to let you guys know that my hat is in this ring along with Bill, but along with Dale too. I want to see ECAD prosper, but not at the decimation of my new neighborhood. Thank you.
We're going to open up a public hearing shortly, but we've got some more discussion on some existing conditions here on this application or this property that was approved in 2016. And it was approved as a site plan. That's why there wasn't notification, and that's why we're kind of in the situation we are. Let me just, this is the letter, May 23rd. This is sent to Mr. Picard. This is the, anybody else have any comments? I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. Come
My name's Jeff Courier, 157 Newfield Road. I live just on next to Bill. I wasn't affected too much until I went up there and looked at what his building is doing, and in the past few years, I've had a considerable amount of water going in my yard. I looked at the way he graded it, raised the grade 14 inches. It runs directly from his property across Bill's and onto mine. I couldn't see any catch basins, no drainage set up. There was a silt fence up, but there's water running down across Bill's property to my property. It's not right. You know, it's been, you approved this building there, and there was nothing done correctly. So it's gotta be corrected.
You live south of
South of Bill.
project? Okay.
Yeah, but directly down, you look at where his building is. I drove up there and I said, no wonder everybody's complaining. This looks like garbage. I couldn't believe the driveway. That isn't a residential, that isn't a driveway for a residential house. That wouldn't pass your codes. If it was put in, it wouldn't pass. There was no way that is a.
We had a earlier application that had a lot of conditions on it that was approved, that was subject to a lot of updates and improvements.
Because I looked at that house back in the early 80s, there was no driveway there.
Okay, but this was approved in 2016, and what was it, 21 that we
21, the
approved,
second one was approved.
a modification to it that addresses what the conversation tonight is with another application.
But how come it hasn't been fixed then?
I would suggest that if you could sit for a little longer, we're gonna talk about these issues and put them on the table,
You know,
because
I'm a businessman in Torrington. If I put up a sign, they're on my ass and they're sending me
I
bills.
totally agree with you, sir, and that's what
How
we're,
how come he can get away with it? You know, I understand he's a nonprofit, does good work.
that has nothing to do with it. We've had a.
You gotta have a
problem
zoning
with-
enforcement. If stuff is done wrong, it's gotta be fixed. You gotta get hard.
Okay, when you're finished, then let us present
Okay, I'm
with what we
finished.
got. No, that's all right.
finished,
We
sir.
have it so it's open discussion, but we haven't even opened a public hearing tonight.
Yeah, I understand.
We've got some additional situations that have transpired. You heard, we thought that they had a temporary CO from our previous enforcement person. It never was handled. So now we've got a temporary CO that's got some timing on it. I'm gonna review that information and some more stuff that you've talked about, Lance, going in the field with our new enforcement person. And hopefully, that's what we're gonna do during the course of this process for this application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, but please stay with us. All right, this is a letter that was written, anybody else in the public? Yes, I'm sorry, sure.
Dick Allen, 133 Wani Road, Winchester Center. Just reinstate my previous concerns about this kennel. It quite doesn't fit this area. I look at Mr. Ruddy's kennel, and that's training for animals, and probably not at the scale that this situation presented to us, the BCAT is. But it sets a precedent for the area, and this is my concern. I'm very aware of the considerable amount of property up there. There have been some indications that other properties will be available, and sizable properties in this area. And my concern is precedent. We can't have something like this extend to other areas of the rural residential. I will admit, I'm kind of a low-grade farmer. I grow Christmas trees, and possibly my land isn't the most presentable, but I try to keep it that way. And as on a farmer, you just can't help but have some buildings and some temporary buildings around with equipment that probably don't. But it has always been a farm. This land that I'm on as far back as I think the King of England divided the land up. So my concern is to take and follow through on the plan of development that you espoused on a number of years ago, and try to abide by that. And now, as far as this wall goes, I've seen some very effective walls built. You don't have to travel but very far on 91 to see what a
Oh, sure.
what a real barrier wall looks like. And it would be, if somebody says a wall doesn't work, well, those walls work. They do have to be refreshed maybe every 20 or so years, but that's all I've got. But
Thank you.
for
Hopefully you
your
can stay in,
consideration.
because as we bring this forward. See,
Pardon me?
because you were here the last time we
That's
had it.
correct.
So let's see what the presentation is, and
Yes.
you're welcome to speak some more, sir. Anybody else tonight have anything else before we get into this? Okay. So this letter was written, came from Lance, I believe. This is your letter, is it not? Okay. And this has now got a number 149.5, so it's got a definite number that we didn't have before. And, but that's the easy part. During the 90-day period, you're required to comply with conditions as listed below. Prior to the expiration of this temporary certificate of use, conditions must be satisfied by the Winchester zoning enforcement officer prior to August 21st, 2023, which is the expiration date. These Planning and Zoning Commission approval conditions are from the PZC 20-30, special permit approval letter dated June 4th, 2021. This was sent to Mr. Picard. One, in evaluating this application, the Planning and Zoning Commission has relied upon information provided by the applicant, and that's part of our normal conditions. And it lists, the second one was listing the documents involved. The applicant at that point seeks to enlarge the approved building from gross square footage of 7118, which falls into the definition of kennel in the rural residential zone. A public hearing, this is for, a public hearing was scheduled and held on January 25th, 2021. The commission finds the testimony received, the submitted narratives and plans, and the reports from other town agencies, boards, and staff compelling. 5, this application is consistent with the town's plan of conservation and development. 6, this application meets the criteria and standards of 3J, common regulations, special permits, special exceptions. 7, approval is granted based on the following submitted plans and drawings, and it lists the plans that were associated with that application. And it completely lists all of those plans. 8, silt fence to be installed immediately upon issuance of building permit. Now, this is the modification, this is the second building. Buffer area to be installed prior to the rest of site work. Relocation / better positioning of plants along building 1 to be made in the field prior to the issuance of the foundation permit. 10, fence adjacent to southerly residential properties to include meshing that mimics vegetation. 11, landscape bond of $5,000 for a term of 5 years from date of this approval. 12, updated site plan to include conditions of approval to be submitted to planning department. 13, State of Connecticut licensed professional engineer to inspect water quality basin and submit findings and report to planning department on an annual basis. 14, bituminous curbing to be installed on southerly side of the driveway and section from smaller garage leading to new parking lot. That's the upper lot. 15, operating hours to continue forward from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for 7 days per week. 16, roof color of new building to be a non-reflective color material. 17, recommendations from this commission to the applicant to include landscaping to buffer noise of new mechanical equipment on the new building 2. 18, Knox box to be installed on building 2. 19 is the applicant to update staff on final location of spoils removal from the basin. 20, buffer landscaping to be replaced should any of them not make it. And then assign Lance Hanson, Director of Land Use Department, Town Planner. So you hand that back to Lance for me, please. Lance, you've been up there to see what's been done since that. Can you tell us what has been done
Yeah.
and what hasn't been done?
Okay, so Jeff Green, who's our new zoning enforcement officer, and I went actually today, and we wanted to inspect the new plantings that have been placed on site at the top of the hill, and then see what the conditions were down by Kristen, thank you, house.
Yeah, but those plantings are along by the original building, the first building. Is that
Correct,
correct?
correct.
Do
And
you
he did
remember what the
replace
spacing was supposed to be according to that plan?
6 feet. I'm sorry,
Spacing between the centers of each tree.
on the original approval, I'm not sure offhand, but we did talk with Dale actually when we were up at the site, and he said he felt the spacing was not adequate. That was part of the original approval, so he has since added trees to the site to make that
But
hedge.
what are the trees that have been put in?
They're Colorado blue spruce, and then the ones that have been replaced, he did not use arborvitae. He actually used different evergreen. I believe it is more spruce.
What did he place them at spacing, center to center?
It's about 6 feet, it looks like. So it should create a
6 feet
hedgerow
from
now.
the center of the trunk to the center of the trunk?
6 to 10, I would say, is probably about
These trees get big.
right. So,
Okay, go ahead.
so that was the first thing we're looking at. We were looking at drainage issues as also. Of course, it was before we got the rain, but just wanted to see how that is working if properly. Inland wetlands, as you may recall, they did approve the site and didn't really have any questions regarding drainage issues. The last part we went down, the dumpster is,
So, wait, Lance,
Oh, sorry.
so they didn't have any, requirements or, they said nothing about it?
no,
Okay, but is it that inland wetlands responsibility, or would, I mean, isn't it a building thing too? I mean, in terms of not having drainage runoff?
Well, when they came in for the modification, to talk about the second building, there was improvements to the drainage structure, which had not functioned properly to begin with. So wetlands had to get into it because there's wetlands adjacent to the property and there's water that goes in there, so it had to be looked at. But they had looked at it for the first application as well in 2016, my understanding.
oh, I'm sure.
I was on a commission in 16, Craig was the chair. Peter, you were.
I believe they did.
Yeah.
Because that all came in as a site plan. It
Yeah.
wasn't a special
All
permit.
agencies were involved.
Yeah,
So
all
it
agencies
wasn't
were
a
involved
matter
at that
of-
time.
All right, so proceed, please.
Yeah, and this is really just today's visit. So the last part, like I said, we went down to the end of the driveway. We did notice the dumpster is still in the location that Bill described. Dale did explain that he wants to put a landing just above and we'll screen it in with fencing. And the reason why it's been staying down by the end of the driveway is just a logistics for the truck to come in and empty it. So with the driveway being redone, that's supposedly in the works for a placement for that. I did mention to Dale that because we met last week, Kristen, and she said her biggest concerns really was the fencing that needed to be along that property line. He said that wouldn't be an issue for him. He did look into stockade fencing, I guess, and the costs to replace the chain link fencing. He said it was gonna cost him about 20 grand and didn't do that and just did repair to the fence. But, so I'm not sure exactly what that means. I thought your point was
we'll
exactly for.
Get the presentation to what is proposed now for this modification. And does it look, from your standpoint, that there's the ability to comply with this by
Some of the things have
21st?
been complied with, actually, since reaching out to Dale about a month ago, when we issued the temporary certificate of use. This is essentially what he's gotten. And absolutely correct, there was nothing in the file that showed that the building official previous had issued it. We decided to go with the 149.5 as just because there needed to be an address. All the issues within the building had essentially been resolved since with our fire marshal and our building official, but without having a physical address assigned to the building in that parcel. That's why we decided we'd go with the temporary, give them an opportunity to try to meet the conditions that were approved, and then in August, we'll have to make a decision whether or not continue the temporary certificate of use, or if we're gonna deny it, and then we'll have to close operations, or it could be issued finally a permanent CO.
Well, I think the importance of, this whole discussion in a temporary CO, we've got the season right now where you can get this work done. And if it sounds like there's the interpretation of the owner of the project, that he's gonna get another temporary CO, extension, I think.
He hasn't
that we-
expressed that, but I'm just saying that would be one
I
of our
just think
options.
we've got 7 years of non-compliance.
Correct.
So I think the only thing
Yeah,
that's
it's
gonna
come to an
be,
end.
the only thing that's gonna be important here is for us, when we talk about this tonight with a public hearing and then how we deliberate, and so on, is that we make it clear that there will be none. It's either complied with or plan on shutting down. And they've got enough time to get this thing done. Anybody else on the commission before we open this thing up to the public?
Does the town have the 5K landscape bond?
We did.
And when's the 5 years run, from 2021?
You know, it's funny, it's kind of whether or not it counts from 2016, or if it actually counts from when we just issued the temporary certificate of use.
We didn't put, was there a bond put on their requirement in 2016?
Correct.
There was.
So, yep, so it's been
Yeah, I
in
thought-
place, but,
I thought we did it in 2021.
Yeah, we did.
okay.
Well,
Is that what, okay.
you have here from the date of this approval, which approval?
That was in the language.
That's the
so I'm
one from
not sure.
2021.
We can
Oh,
look
that
at-
was-
we can
I
look
would-
at
That's the one
yeah.
from 2021.
Yeah.
All right, so just, let's pay attention to that, because This is important.
So
We've got no compliance.
basically, I mean, as far as this whole list you've given us, conditions that we've set in 2016 and 2021, the only thing he's done is trees, basically.
Correct.
Nothing else.
Right, other than silt fencing and some of the other requirements for the
Right.
wetlands, but,
Nothing else. Okay.
right.
No, that answers my question.
All right.
We've got a lot to do between now and the end of August.
Okay, but I think that it's clear that we stipulate what what our intentions are, because we haven't had any compliance. All right, everybody satisfied that we can move forward and open this up? Go ahead, sir.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Lance, this didn't come in, but you said you were at the property today?
Mhm.
I noticed you didn't mention the fact that the parking area down below, that last year, he extended that over towards Christine's property, like 12 feet by like 70 feet, built that boulder wall 5 feet high with no drainage, no permits. Now she has cars parked literally 6 feet from the corner of her house. And he did all of that by himself, no contractors, you know, just Mr. Picard. And I questioned you about that and asked, did he pull permits? We'll look into it, we'll look into it. But again, tonight, that's not even coming up. He had a major parking area. He probably added a spot for 10 to 15 cars, and we're okay with that? I mean, we're gonna proceed. Did you inform them that he did do this? You physically saw the wall, right, and the extension of
I
the
have,
parking lot?
yes, and since you brought it to
And
my
he had no
attention.
And
permits
no
for
permits, no anything.
Again, the driveway permit goes through Department of Public Works, my guess is no. But I am,
That's to get out to the road.
right,
But what about all this parking on the inside? That wasn't involved in our,
That's an additional parking lot that wasn't.
okay, if it wasn't in with the original road design,
It
then-
wasn't.
all right, so that's
No,
another
have to be
violation
addressed.
of what he's had, and he's looking for after the
No,
fact.
if you look at the 2016 plans for 2021,
Yeah.
they're not there. And it's no,
All right, so if you could just make a note of that as we move forward. All right.
Something that's been bothering me right along. This is basically a high-end kennel with dogs in residence. It's gonna be operating from the hours, supposed to be from 8 AM to 5 AM.
it's
5 p.m.
6.
5 PM, 8 AM to 5 PM.
Six.
6
Six.
o'clock.
And now, I know people that have worked in kennels that were very valuable, high-end dogs. And there was people on staff in the buildings 24 hours a day, in case these dogs had issues or anything like that. Now, we just went through a violent thunderstorm here. And if anybody has dogs, you know, dogs react. So those dogs are up there for, say, we had a 5-hour thunderstorm, and shaking and tearing up their cages and getting hurt. Nobody's gonna be there. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that those hours or all this place is gonna work. Once it gets into full swing, that there will not be staff on premises 24 hours a day. So,
Okay, so those are questions we're gonna have to get clarified. All right, we're ready to open this thing up?
Is there any other comments that could be made regarding this?
Well, we're gonna open it up and we can talk more about it if you'd like.
I have a
No,
question on this.
he doesn't understand what you said. The public hearing's gonna be open in about a minute, and then everyone can join in and talk
We'll have
again.
everybody have an opportunity to feed off.
It'll be
this.
on the record as
They're
part
gonna
of the
get a
public hearing.
presentation of what the
After we get a
proposal is.
presentation from Mr. Borghese.
Yeah,
And then we'll open it up for public comment, and I don't wanna see us repeat everything that's been said already, we understand. But if you have additional information that you get out of the presentation, and you have questions, please bring them up.
I have questions on what has already
All right, go ahead.
transpired here.
Go ahead.
So,
Go ahead with that.
well, number one, there has never been a professional hydraulic study conducted on that property. You got a neighbor down there, a couple of houses down, it's got water coming down on his land. We've got water comes across the street in the Newfield Brook. It's now about 1,000 feet down. It's a drop stream. State of Connecticut owns about 80 acres of property going to Newfield Road, and Stockman Truck, whatnot. There's got, I don't know if our town has got the professional
Yes.
I'm sorry. May I give these pictures to Lance? They're photos from my porch.
Sure.
And it may help when Mr. Borghese uses his drawings. These are real, like,
Okay.
that I took today.
All right, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, let's, this is PZC 23 dash, get the right one, 23-10, special permit applicant Alan Borghese, owner ECAD, location 149 Newfield Road, proposal modify location of proposed new building and wall sign application. And you've got the, when it was published?
Yep. And we have the certificate of mailings for both meetings on the 10th. It didn't end up happening, and then 26th, or 12th, and then 26th.
Yeah, let's, Craig is gonna make a motion to open. the
I'll make a
public
motion to open this public hearing on the east.
Second.
Go ahead.
Third.
hearing. All in favor? Thank you.
So you have the date of the notice, the legal notice?
Al Foster was a sign out by the property, so, by other had them.
April 13th, 2023.
There were two advertisements, correct?
And the second one, not sure why there's only one date on that.
All right, Lance, we need to find that, we need to log it down so that there's a record of the advertised dates that was published, please.
Okay.
Thank you. There been any comments from any town staff or anything?
No, not yet. Or no, they didn't. What did they had them back for the original application? That was
But
denied.
for this application?
No, nothing new had come in.
Because the timing is running out on this. I mean,
Mm.
we think we've gotta have this done by the 10th. Is it the 10th, Peter?
12th,
12th of July.
65
Or
days is the 12th,
July.
according to, of July, yes.
So so go ahead.
Can I start?
Cheers, Alan.
You can.
Yay. I want to repeat, everybody here's heard a lot of this before, but my involvement, and by the way, I'm Alan Borghese, chairman of Borghese Building and Engineering Company. I'm an engineer. And interestingly, I built the first building for ECAD. I was the building contractor, not the site contractor. You hired someone else to do site work. He called me up, I don't even know what month now, let's say 6 months ago. And he had another building to construct. I think think at that time he had received planning and zoning approval for a second building. He presented the second building to me, and from my engineering aspect, when I looked at it, I realized there was a serious safety flaw. I said this, I'll repeat it all again very quickly. The building was built such that the main parking lot, anybody that wanted to enter the building had to walk down a set of stairs, about 14 or 15 stairs down into an alleyway, a recessed alleyway between the parking lot and the building, held by retaining wall along the parking lot and the building, and I just felt it was a safety hazard. Ergo, my involvement. And I said to Dale, in this case, this was a safety hazard. I went through some calculations of how many possible trips people make up and down the stairs, and in the winter it was into the thousands. And somebody was definitely gonna get hurt, or over and over again, it was a safety factor. So I came up with a presentation that was very, very simple. Raise the building up, push it closer to the parking lot, make it so you walk from the parking lot into the building. Along with that, I realized that the facility was overparked. I eliminated the parking lot and added more landscaping. And that's why I'm here. From my perspective, I think it's true that this is an approved plan. And I respect everybody's position here of being concerned about it. And it's your opportunity to perhaps improve it. I've probably been to 8 meetings here, more or less, doesn't matter. And I've been doing all this at no cost, because it's the right thing to do from an engineer's point of view. I was not the engineer that drew the site plan, nor the parking, nor the pavement, or anything originally. I just saw a chance to improve it. And perhaps I will build a second building. I don't even have a contract to build it. So I'm sitting here with, in this case, a bunch of concerned neighbors, and I respect that you all have concerns. And I'm not trying to push you into accepting or not accepting anything. Without being selling sarcastic, if I get shot down here completely, I'm not sure it's an advantage to any of you, the original building, they gotta prove the second building can be built, he can build it. I went to court, it was decided in court that his permit was correct, from what I understand. I was not part of that at all. So, I'm here to try to present a safer building for ECAD. On the other hand, this is an opportunity for you to address concerns, and if he has the patience to listen to this and decides to listen to it, to address all your concerns. He is actually a very good guy. What he does is good for the community. And this is not an engineering presentation, this is I would just say fact presentation. He has, over the last couple of months, met with town officials over and over and over again. And I've attended some meetings, fire marshal, planning and zoning, all kinds of other building official. We went through his building, and I believe he's made some substantial improvements to his site due to that. There isn't a lot that I can say about the drainage. I didn't design it, the driveway, I didn't design it. And I respect the fact that there is questions. And this young lady went and visited him today, they had a nice conversation. She would appreciate a fence along the properties. It was, again, I'm talking as a human being now, not as an engineer. It was mentioned, gee, along Route 95, 84, they have these sound barriers. I don't think that you really want that kind of sound barrier, the backside of it on your house either. So I think there's probably some reasonable compromise that ECAD can continue and function, and that you people have a bit of more comfort about what he's trying to do, and let him do it perhaps. But on my personal engineering end, I can't change anything. I can suggest that you all kind of try to get together and do something reasonable together and build a building. The building is going to be built. The trouble is it's going to be built the way it was just recently approved 8 months ago, a year ago, or is it going to be built the way I would like to see it built, which is a safer building. I have made no changes to the site plan, except reducing the amount of asphalt pavement. Zero, I've had more plantings, so everything I've done here has been a benefit. So the question here only is, and this board has the same question as you have, can we tweak this a little bit and make it better than it was? He really is trying to make an effort to make it better. I have no idea if his finances were, I've never heard of finances. If he's wealthy, that's wonderful. If he's poor, that's sad, but it would be nice if we can come up with some kind of a compromise where everybody gets ahead and does better than the old plan that was here. He gets a better building, a safer building. You get a better protection for your neighborhood. The engineering for drainage, et cetera, is improved on this drawing. I did not draw. It is much better. Landscaping is there. It would be just nice if we could all get together and decide that a 6-foot-high stockade fence, 200 feet long along the neighbor, 4 feet off the property line, or something done by a surveyor could satisfy the neighbors. And I don't know if it can. This institution does a lot of good for the public. I don't live next door. I don't hear the dogs barking. I've been there many, many times, never heard a dog bark, but maybe it does happen. I imagine in the kennel, somebody does have to be there overnight at times, especially if their dogs are being born or something else. So all I'm saying to you, as human beings, is there a compromise we can make this work for everybody? I'm not even going to do an engineering presentation here, because there's nothing to be talked about. Because I'm not doing anything other than raising a building and shifting it to make it safe. So unless somebody has questions of me, I really feel I'm going to rest and sit down and I'll answer questions I can. But it's really sad what's happening here because, as I said, I think this facility is going to be built either way. Let's try to get it built that satisfies the neighbors the best we can. Is there anything else I can say, George?
Well, I'd like to see, you've got a planting plan that's on here.
Yes, I do.
Can you open that up and talk about it? Because
I'll talk about my planting plan a little bit. Let me lay this down first so I can find it. By the way, on these plans that are drawn here, I did not draw them. All I took is the other engineer's plans and I made revisions. Because I thought it was the simplest way to let everybody see the changes I made rather than indicate it's a brand new plan. And even that turned out controversial. I guess I've never been so wrong in my life about trying to do something. Here, I'm not sure that people in the audience can see. Can they come up and look at it? From the previous planting plan, the only thing that was these trees along this neighborhood to the north were shown previously. He did not even recognize the fact they were there. He was very happy about it. I talked to him several times. Around the building, the parking lot we're talking about is right here. The building is shown right here. I put plantings between the sidewalk and the building. There wasn't any big valley in there. I added plantings here. I have not added plantings, but this is what I've done to revise this to make it more attractive driving by. It doesn't affect the neighbors that I see on this end. They're all self-sufficient. They're all, what about the drainage? Provision from the neighbors to get the water flowing. Again, I have not touched site plan, the drainage, or the driveway. They've added pervious pavement, well, this area, pervious pavement is pavement that theoretically, like gravel, winter water will run into the ground. It does engineering calculations on here that say the water runoff after we're done building the building is not any greater than what from the present facility. He's got all his calculations done. He is submitted them to planning and
I know,
zoning.
but I can't,
And they're shared by this engineer.
he's talking about the brick. Is that this?
He's not here because when I
Is that
indicated this problem, we went to him and asked him to redraw it.
let's talk about whether he performs or not, but let's talk about what the plan is, if we could, and questions related to it. And if you see something that doesn't look like it's gonna work, make the suggestion so we are aware of it.
Okay, so I have one question now. So you said you're not really making any changes. You're not affecting the drainage or anything, but you are raising the building back up 8 or 9 feet?
I'm raising the roof, now, when we talk about drainage concerns, we talk about pervious and impervious. Pervious is natural ground, impervious is pavement, roof area, sidewalks. Don't
Okay.
go that far. I have not increased the impervious to the pavement, I'd actually decreased it. There was a parking lot, let me show you this.
Right, and you're eliminating the parking lot, I get
And
that.
I've reduced parking because this place, in my opinion, is so overparked. We had a parking lot in here, and I reduced that. That helps your drainage. The parking lot that's here, I left, the parking lot here, I left exactly where it is. And I've taken the building, I made it in red, which it was, and I shifted it over. And I raised the height so people can walk from the parking lot into the building instead of down stairways. That's the only thing I've done. And all of this increases the pervious nature of this development.
And did you not say that was gonna change the grades and you proposed you were gonna bring in 4,000 to 5,000 yards of fill?
That's because right at the building itself, let's assume the building is at a elevation 0 to 0. And I bring in the fill to make it go to elevation 10, it reaches about 10 feet. That doesn't affect any of the water or drainage from you at all. The only thing it's done is there's a sunken building, and the people here were parking here and walking into the building. People here had to walk down stairways into the building. Physical building, physical characteristics are the same. I physically just raised the floor height. And
Correct.
from a purist engineering, non-engineering viewpoint, I have not made drainage worse by doing this at the building.
Well, what you have done is raise that building 9 feet, which planning and zoning worked very hard. The reason they sunk that was to block the line of sight from the Orbis property, which I heard you say you spoke with him several times, and he's more than happy with this.
He has
And
no
I speak to
problem.
him every day, and he's not happy with this.
Well, he was here at 1 or 2 meetings, and he indicated, one, we tried to get a letter from him, but I didn't get anything to it, I know. But I'm gonna tell you what his actual words are here, right? I have no vendetta here, and no.
No, I get that.
Can we ask some questions?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Go ahead. Is that,
When you raise it, you're gonna bring in fill. Is it gonna be a footing, or is there gonna be a basement underneath the building?
There's no basement.
So it's gonna say remain just
It's what
earth
they call
underneath.
slab on grade.
Okay.
But do you have questions on that plan?
That was my one question so
Oh,
far.
okay. Alan, I got a question, and it's different subjects and all that stuff. But there's existing plantings that were on the even 2016 plan, and we went up there during the winter, and he had just stuck trees in there prior to it was snowing and everything else. But the spacing between spruce trees has to be more than 6 feet of separation, trunk to trunk. These plans show about 20 feet, center to center. And if you do that, you need to stagger trees so that you get some definition of.
and add other, and add other
As been
species.
mentioned, a little variety in trees, because I know in my yard, right now I've got 16 spruce trees that are 85 feet high, and they're dying.
Yeah, the bottom branches all die off.
Yeah.
George, I said this to somebody, I don't know if it was you at the last meeting, that I even got a price from a landscaper on the plantings for this new building. And I think that your old bond was $5,000, which is probably not adequate. I have a quote for you, if you want to have him have a bond that matches reality. But I think with some ruling from this commission about a fence along the southerly property line, about having his bond of adequate nature so that he does finish it and the town holds the money, I think this can come out a positive project.
Can I make one comment, Alan?
Yes.
I was the chair when you came before the first time.
You know,
Nothing has been, excuse me, nothing has happened in that 7 years on any of the items on this punch list. He put the trees in, they all died off. They were dead before, whatever. And Peter was on my left at the time, and that driveway was a concern for the fire trucks. I don't know, I'm on a walker now, so unfortunately I can't go up there and look at what's happening. But my contention is that nothing, virtually nothing, okay, I'll be fair, has been done since 2016, when we gave the initial approval to let that project begin. All of the conditions, fences, whatever, have been ignored. And no amount of cajoling, peacefully or otherwise, has changed it. So I don't wanna, I'm not trying to put a wrench in the works, but it's all fine to say we're doing all these things. But if they're not adhered to, it's a waste of time. You're wasting my time, you're wasting yours. I mean, come on, it's useless. Unless these conditions are gonna be met and done, and they're not put up there just because we wanna be, whatever, it's on TV, so I gotta be nice. But, you know, we don't make these things up. There's a reason, there's a very factual reason behind all of the thinking that goes in. That's all zoning is to get uniformity for everybody that comes up to Winchester Center or Winstead or wherever. It's a degree of uniformity that people like yourself who build stay within those confines. So my complaint or my concern is that's the biggest impediment to whatever changes you've made, how great and but I'm not belittling it. But the fact that nothing is done on these conditions, I think George read off almost 2 pages. None of, I mean, these are things, they go back. I was there, I remember. So.
Let me say, in the last couple of months, I think Dale has accomplished a lot of these things.
After 7 years?
Let me say, on the trees that were either died or missing up at the north end, he bought the trees from a landscaper I know, and he put them in. I don't think they're dead because they're relatively new. But I think he's trying. I think to be very candid with you, and this is conjecture. When he first built this building, it was over his head. And I think he's matured. But I agree with you. And how else you enforce it, I don't know, Craig.
I'm just saying to you, this is, to me, as we sit here, this is the third time this has come in front of us, in my presence. Anyway, okay? I'm not Einstein by any means. Damn near 80 years old, I barely can remember what time I had. But to me, the fact that, you know, this is all great, you got new landscape, area. I'm just leery of whether it's ever gonna be implemented, that's all. I won't say anymore.
Go ahead. That's your-
So,
Go ahead, go.
okay. Responding or asking about something I heard a resident say, was this driveway, does this driveway, you're talking about, is there only one driveway, the long driveway, is that what we're talking about here? Does that meet with the setback requirements of the regs? Who answers that? Who's gonna answer that for
No,
me?
it's true. It comes
Did it
right-
get a variance? How is it built there when
It was approved in 2016 as a site plan approval. Whatever was decided.
Going back beyond that, it was approved originally for a residential driveway by previous zoning
Okay,
board
so-
and wetlands.
So it would have
For a
met the
12-foot
setbacks,
driveway
it would have met the
originally.
setback requirements as a residential driveway?
I don't think so.
So how did it get approved?
I have no idea.
Okay. Ouch. I mean, it's right next to this woman's property, from the way she described it. Is that accurate? I saw, okay, so is that accurate? That's accurate, we agree that's accurate. How the heck did that happen?
If I may, it seems to me, again, I'm new here, so somebody correct me if I'm wrong. When you look at the down driveway near my house, you see pavement, and then as Bill mentioned, there's probably And did he ever even get a permit from it? So whether that
It's right on the line.
paved driveway was approved or whatever, I have no
Yeah,
idea. But what we
okay,
existed
and then how did it go from a residential driveway, what is it now expanded into like a commercial driveway?
Back in
2016.
2016, it was left as a gravel driveway, had to be 20 feet wide, or excuse me, I think 16 feet wide is what was approved. It was 12 foot wide through the wetlands.
And now what is it?
In 2020, our approval required it to be expanded to 20 feet wide and had to be paved 20 feet wide, the complete length, to meet the new state fire code that's required by the state.
So that further put it into.
Well, it
out
hasn't
of
been paved, it's still a
compliance.
dirt driveway.
Okay.
It's still gotta be widened and paved.
Okay, but that's gonna make it further in non-compliance with setback requirements. Alan, are you addressing that at all, or is that not something, you're only, it sounds like you said you were dealing just with the building, you weren't going back to any of this original stuff?
I never reviewed the engineering calculations,
Yeah, yeah.
driveways or anything. I could have, but I'm
I understand.
purely the builder of the building.
I understand, okay, so that, you can't help us with that tonight. That's, Jason. Okay.
Alan, I got a question for you. You know, you're saying, you're bringing this forward because there's a major flaw, safety, with that stairway from the parking lot.
Yep.
Original proposal built for 2021, there was the impervious parking lot right in front of the building where you can park and walk into the building. No steps, no stairs. There's a parking lot across the driveway.
Yep.
So-
Let me show
I
you.
know, I know it is.
Okay.
This parking lot you're talking about was built for the original building.
Yep.
And it's there, existing.
Yep.
Why
No,
not
no,
limit? Well, no, it was built as 2016 as part of the original building.
As part of the original building.
Why not eliminate the stairway or enclose it?
Because, first of all, there's only
Why?
like 5 cars in this parking lot that's next to the building, and then the rest of people have to cross the driveway.
Right.
And I didn't feel that was safe either.
There's only 5 or 6 cars a day that use the driveway, according to the property owner. I mean, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, it's not his thing.
I know,
don't know
but
if we have to
this
put it
is-
in
The
here.
engineering viewpoint,
Okay.
it was, he had a stairway going down from that wall.
Yeah.
Right.
Showing it
And that's
on
what
the
they
building.
presented to us and obviously wanted, the property owner wanted at that time. Then why not enclose it?
If you, as I say, if this commission wants to go back to the original plan.
No, I'm just saying, you're bringing it as a safety
I-
item,
I-
and I'm
I
asking.
was not a part of that.
Okay,
What I saw was the main parking lot next to the building with a 15 stair
right.
covered way. And the other parking lot being really not well laid out. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
It was brought up about 4,000 yards of material that you need to bring in for fill.
Yep.
So you're talking in excess of 200 triaxle dump truck loads to haul that material.
I'll cover it.
Well, I can tell you, at 20 yards, it's 200. At 15 yards, it's 267 loads. That's gotta come up and down Newfield Road and up that driveway.
260 trucks.
Right.
Yep.
Would you wanna live there and have 267 truckloads of fill go by your house?
It's a very short duration period of time, but
It isn't one day. No, you answered my question.
I can
Thank you.
rush this easily and say, that they can go back to the original plan. I was trying to do myself a favor and the world a favor,
Yeah,
and it turned out to be a
it's
mistake.
it's not, I don't think it's Mr. Borghese' issue. So I'm looking at your photo here. I mean, I've lived in many 19th century properties and built a lot of stone walls or had them built. This is just a pile of rocks.
Yeah.
This stuff is gonna flush all through there, and that thing's gonna fall apart after a first good cold New England winter.
It's already, some
Yeah.
of the rocks in
Okay.
the back.
So
of
if
the
this is
property
something that
are-
just happened in the last couple of months, this is not, okay, but this isn't, I don't know how. Yeah.
No, there should be cease and desist on that. I'm sorry, that wasn't done with permits. There should be no parking
Yeah.
there.
Oh,
It should
that's
be-
right,
Should be
right.
removed.
That's right, so
No,
that's
we go back to
adjacent to
lack of
this kind of
enforcement
new
again.
parking lot that he just put in on his own? Okay. Okay. Okay.
You had another question?
Oh, just my comments. Call the Ag Experiment Station up in New Windsor, East Windsor, and they can tell you about building a plant, a group of plants that can give you a screening. They can tell you that they're gonna put multiple species in. It's gonna be graded such that,
What did the,
And Craig is right, I mean, Spruce will lose the lower branches and basically trunk of the tree. I mean, the other thing is, you've got to get a good hydraulic study on this property. You don't have it, you need a good professional hydraulic study. The neighbors are complaining about it. I seen wash come down last year across Newfield Road. Town came up and I think, was it last year or year before? Had to clear the stones off the road. And maybe go up there now and take a look at it, but we need a good hydraulic study from a professional engineer.
I can say this. The engineer here did a hydraulic study and has calculations, and he did submit it to the town, and he did certify it, and it indicated no additional runoff.
I can say it,
And, you know, if you want to question his professional ability, that's all.
Oh, is that hydraulic study done on the road, on the entire road, or just the upper building?
On this.
On the site.
On this addition, but not on the road, but not on the road driveway?
Not in the road itself, no, but that's the existing condition.
Well, we've added curbing on that toward the residential, so that
It will help.
it's gonna help and go toward the wetland area.
Absolutely.
You're gonna dump it all in wetlands,
Just a
right?
question, when you changed your calculations on the impervious coverage,
Yep.
was the gravel driveway that is above the new parking lot that's covered with grass now included in those impervious calculations?
I took his calculations and I just adjusted it for the reduction that I have.
Of the one parking lot,
That's right.
and increased it for the
And the rest
side,
of it
the
left the
additional,
same because it was
the
a-
additional sidewalks you put in, because there's additional sidewalks.
But he had sidewalks and
Right,
I
but-
took the whole net calculation.
Right, but you've added additional sidewalks to.
That's correct.
Okay, because there's one along the building, along the parking lot and stuff in the proposal. Okay,
It was actually a net reduction even without the,
no, I see that from 14.58, or, existing's 14.58, it's proposed as 14.82.
This drainage thing, Lance, when we had the last presentation, was it 21? The last time it was approved. That must be in the file, because it was all submitted, everything that was associated with it, the drawings and so forth. So we need to get that.
Gentlemen, can I ask a question, maybe Mr. Brigade, you know,
Go ahead.
so we're talking about pervious versus impervious surfaces here, we're adding sidewalks, this and that. Now, I believe the fire marshal has required that this road is paved 20 foot wide from Newfield Road, from the curb cut, all the way up. Is all that pavement, is all that 20 feet of asphalt, all the way up, is that calculated into these pervious and impervious calculation? Have we added that much,
That was my understanding when we did the last approval.
the entire road?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why the curbing was added, so that it was directed away from the residential along.
The property along the south.
Okay.
That was the reason for the curbing in the last proposal.
Do you have anything else that you want to add?
no, it's just that it would be awfully nice if we could come up with a fence height. As part of an approval process, if it happens, mark it or discuss the length of it on the drawing. Protect the town and the people here with an adequate bond to cover these things. And let this better building get built instead of the less better building. That's my own wording. The worse building. But it would be nice, that's all. And maybe it won't happen tonight's meeting, maybe it won't happen in 2 weeks meeting or 3 weeks meeting. But it would be nice if we could make him assure ourselves, I'll say it differently, assure ourselves that the building will get built per the plans.
Well, not only the building, but everything else
Site.
associated with the plan.
Yep.
Because when you're talking about 6-foot spacing on spruce trees, I just don't understand how that's gonna help anybody, and it's certainly not the way to, and it's not on a plan that way. So that's the other difficulty we have with the performance of the owner, is that he needs to follow the plan. And we have the opportunity, if we act on this plan proposal that you have, is to stipulate more clearly the performance of the project based on the plan. But it might need more plants, as has been suggested, to get a variety so that we get some staggering possibly. Because I know I've been at my home for in excess of 50 years, and we've got trees that are almost 90 feet tall, and something is affecting these particular trees, and we're losing them. And that's not a good deal. So what we've got here is I was surprised when we went up there in the winter and walked the property and went up to the neighbor's house above it. And looking down at what we see, it looks like a small industrial park. And when you read the minutes of the approval at 16, what was presented and what was in the minutes was the building would reflect a farm-like building. And that doesn't look farm-like at all.
I wasn't here talking, you're right.
But I'm just saying, so that was presented and we looked at it, so it needs to be a definition of a boundary to be able to shelter this property, because it's certainly out of character. I think if there was a public hearing made back with your first application, I can't imagine that it was even gonna be approved that way. It was a site plan, and people weren't notified. So I don't know what the circumstances were that did that, but we're trying to deal with somebody who's already invested. It's a great project, I mean, as far as, but it's a great project that probably should be somewhere else, in my mind. But it's there, and we're trying to make the best that we can out of it, because it's already got a lot of money invested in it. But the owner has not been helpful, and that's what we
So
gotta deal with.
I have another question. I don't know, again, Al, if you can answer this, but was there a specific type of fence? This is supposed to be border fence from the neighbors, right? Was there a specific type of fence
Chain link
recommended?
with slots, that was, I
Well,
recall.
in
What?
2020,
Yeah.
the 2021 approval
Yeah.
was a 6-foot chain link fence with slots in it.
Is that-
But
is this a
that-
6-foot chain
That
link?
fence, I think, was something existing in 2016.
No, he put that's
That's
when
new.
you guys acquired fencing,
Okay.
and remember you said you wanted the slats
Yep,
put in?
okay.
That's the fencing that he installed.
Just not maintained.
Bill, is this 6 feet tall, this fence?
Yeah, that's a 6-foot fence.
Okay, it's hard to tell because it's
The problem
leaning
with
over.
the fence is right after that, the driveway curves and goes up, and it's such a grade that with a 6-foot fence,
Yeah, right.
I mean, I can see the undercarriage of the car coming down
Uh-huh.
over the 6-foot fence. It's height-wise, it's,
What-
now,
what-
I was told originally that planning zoning would only allow a 6-foot fence, that's it, can't do anymore. Then I was informed this year that he could put up a 50-foot fence if he wants, if he pulls a permit. But without a permit, you're limited to 6 feet. And that's why they chose the 6-foot
But
fence.
what I was trying to ask, because I wasn't on the commission at that time, was whether this complied with what the commission, the condition in the approval, if that complies with that. Or if this was, you said, did somebody just say this was pre-existing, it was already there?
No, you said it was.
He said it was put up
said it
after
was-
Yeah,
2016,
okay.
so.
Does this comply? I'm just trying to find out if we're, where we are. Does this comply?
It doesn't look like it's adequate for what it
Okay.
was designed to do because of the
I
slope.
don't remember,
topology.
it's 7 years, I don't remember
Well, we have a list of the
specifically on that.
conditions, don't we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but no,
we do.
16, I think was,
And
I'm
you
just
can
going back to
show-
the original, I was trying to find the site plan. was the question.
Yeah,
Shirley, you can see by that photo too, that the stone wall that you see there, the old stone wall.
yeah, yeah.
That is my property line.
Oh,
So.
so
the
it's right
fence-
on your property
So
line?
the fence, there's your setback.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go my entire property line. They ran that up a couple hundred feet and just stopped. They just stopped the fence there. I would like my entire property line fence.
understood.
Again, to keep the animals,
Of
our
course.
animals separated.
Yeah, okay.
You had something, Alan?
I had a couple of questions.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Alan, you know, does the existing driveway that they're using, the rear lot now has a number 149.5. Is that totally on 149.5, or does it enter from 149?
Yes. I don't know which question I'm answering. I don't know.
Okay.
I never
Well,
went out there and
maybe
surveyed.
Lance-
I never did anything.
How much property, how much road frontage is on 149.5?
I think I looked, it's only like 30 feet.
So he meets the zoning regulations of a minimum of 25 feet for the rear lot. Then. So then the driveway is obviously crossing a separate piece of property.
Correct.
Okay.
What is that, the import of that, Pete? What do you see?
Well, if you had a driveway for your house and it crossed a neighbor's property, you would need a permanent easement.
Gotcha, yeah. Oh, so it's on somebody else's property?
Well, it's on ECAT's property, but it's still a separate
I
piece of
see.
property. It's
Gotcha,
not solely
gotcha.
on the
Okay.
property
I
that
haven't
we're
been up
discussing.
there either, because,
It's two lots is what Peter's requiring.
Yeah.
Just, the other question I had, on your prints, what is the exact height of the proposed new building with you elevating it?
May I guess? I don't have the architectural.
Well, based
I'll
on the
guess, yeah,
topo
very close.
readings.
The building is probably at its highest about 15 feet. The reason I can say that is the ceiling heights inside
But
are
if
9
you
feet.
look at your topo drawings,
I don't have it, over the top of it.
on your, right, what would be the existing height of it? I think some of the lines there are 890 or something like that, whatever they are. But I was just wondering what the top of what elevation the top of the building would be. It's not shown.
Peter, is your question, what is the height of the roof of the building?
What is the elevation of the roof of the building?
As I said, okay, I'll give you.
I know the building may be 15
I'll
feet,
give you-
but
I'll give you a number.
what's the elevation of it? Based on,
Okay, here we go. Finished floor is 81, and let's make it 15 feet. So 96, 496.
496?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, I'm saying, answered it incorrectly. 496 is from the previous owner, I'm making it about 10 feet higher, so 506, 506.
So, well, you're raising it up 12 feet.
10 feet,
10 is all you're putting fill in.
yeah, 10,
Okay.
plus or minus 6
so,
inches.
so Pete, does that,
You're engineering this,
No, no.
and I'm asking for an exact
Here's
figure.
the reason I'm saying that.
It should be
The adjacent-
engineered.
The adjacent pavement is 490.5. I will be about 14 or 15 feet higher than
So
that.
roughly 505, 506.
That's right,
Okay.
that's where I got the number.
Thank you.
so Peter, will that contradict the original approval that had something to do with the way visually this?
Well, that, we've got to look at it on the plans. what-
Okay, all right.
What it is, you know,
Okay.
because, I mean.
So we don't know whether it
Well,
does
in
that.
20, that's what we've got to look at,
Understood.
you know,
But
based on the height of
Can't the
it.
engineer tell us that? Okay,
You can ask him.
gotcha, okay. Alan, will the building, as raised the way you're proposing here?
There's less drainage.
No, I'm talking about the visual, because there was something I heard earlier that the 2016 approval required some sort of site.
2021 approval required to be sunk. To
Okay,
keep the
so-
height of the building low, to keep it less visible from the surrounding neighbors.
Okay, and so
That was
will
our
this
original
change that, Alan? So now it will be visible to the surrounding neighbors?
That's gonna be 15 feet high.
I know, I haven't
10
been
feet,
up
12
there,
feet higher.
so I
In my opinion,
wanna ask
the
him.
only person that would be more visible to is the person to the north.
Is what?
The person to the north.
Who's that?
He's not here.
Okay, okay.
And as I said, I talked to him personally, and he was happy with the screening that was there, screening that was being put in.
Okay, well, I'm not, yeah, that doesn't matter. I just wondered physically and what it looks like, or what it will look like.
His house is here, their house,
Yeah,
his building will
okay,
be here,
okay.
On,
virtually the same level, looking straight out over.
His kitchen window.
And I have one more thing, and that is, and I don't know if Alan has anything to do with this, and that is the signage approvals.
The roof of this building will be approximately where the finished floor is up the upper building.
It's lower than that existing.
No, it'll be lower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 15
Slopes
feet
down.
lower. Yeah.
I don't-
What was the other question?
The signage approvals, what's going,
There's signage that was put on the first building.
yeah. Was it that approved, or it was just
It
put
was
up?
never discussed.
Okay,
Well, George, there's also a sign on the old building right on Newfield Road now, right on the outside of the
Has that
house
been
facing
permitted?
Newfield Road.
no.
so
That's
every,
been
so all the signs are not permitted at this point? They're just up there?
Except for the one on the post.
The one small one on
One
the
on
post by the road.
Okay.
Are there any additional signs going on to the new building proposed?
I was told by the fire department that they wanted a sign on both buildings.
Well-
One of them saying kennel building, and one of them saying training
Well,
facility.
basically,
Other than
that
that.
came from the fire marshal, and it's from state fire code. Each building has to be designated like A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, because there's alarm systems in them. And when we go there for an alarm right now, we don't know what building to go to. which is totally ridiculous, and it's been that way for 7 years. But that's the state fire code, and that only has to be a 1 foot square sign.
I thought it was bigger than that, but it's okay.
Yeah,
small-
whatever the
small
fire
sign.
marshal tells you,
A
but,
small sign, yeah.
but no other signs identifying the building, that they're ECAD, or anything like what they've done with the first building.
Not that I know, I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
All right, anybody else in the audience have questions about it?
I got one.
Yes.
When each new building goes up, let's go up, would the mechanicals be on the roof and then?
No, has all the heating and air conditioning systems inside the building, except between the sidewalk and the building. Sidewalk and the parking lot and the building, I have these little condenser units like we have in your house. They're small units, probably 30 inch by 30 inch by 30 inch size. They're not rooftop units, that would be obvious.
Is there a rooftop on the existing building? I think the mechanical.
Where does he get the elevation from? Where does he get the elevation from? 500 feet. That's not above sea level.
Was that, is that something that this commission determines where the mechanicals will be?
They were supposed to be hidden from view.
No, that's,
Where's zero? Where's zero?
Okay, but they're saying it's,
Well, the original building, the mechanicals.
What is zero?
I know.
all right, I'm
But that, I
confused. So
don't,
we're really only talking about the second.
we're talking
building
about,
tonight.
that's their,
You can't do the
Gotcha.
the buffering and all that business was never taken care of.
Yeah,
6
I
foot
see that.
spacing is inadequate, and
Right,
the plan
okay.
doesn't call for that.
Okay.
But let's ask any questions that Mr. Borghese can do.
I'm trying
deal with
to,
right
but I wasn't, I mean, he made it clear he didn't do anything on the original building or even the site plan, that you're just dealing with this second building.
Oh, he built the first building. I built the first building,
Yes, okay.
not site work. I'm hoping to build the second
So
building.
you didn't do any of the site work or drainage or anything that, it was just the building only, that's it. And that's what you plan on doing with this, I assume, site work is gonna be done by someone else.
I'm saying, no, that's correct.
All right.
Before you folks make a decision, one thing we have a problem with, or again, I guess another request like that. So this fencing that you saw where it was leaning over again, there's posts missing, I give you pictures of where he used 2x4s for posts and whatnot. This is because we are not using professional contractors here.
He's doing it.
This is Mr. Picard with a Kubota on a Sunday afternoon, building the rubble wall and putting the dirt in, putting the fencing up by himself, which is great if you have an acre tucked in the woods in North Fork and you wanna do a little improvement to your property. But with a large commercial facility thrust into a rural residential area like this, you should be using contractors and the work should be being checked and it should be being checked versus the code and approval with the towns, not just, oh, I wanna do this on Sunday and do this on Saturday. Lance can attest, that he put pipes into wetlands, did he not? And he went up and you caught him and said, yeah, you gotta rip them out, and he dug them
Oh,
up and put them out.
that was Michael, but yeah.
Or Michael
Yep.
went up because I saw him doing drainage work. And again, well, he's doing it himself, so we went on a Sunday morning, 6 AM, dug a bunch of trenches, shoved a bunch of pipes into wetlands, which drains onto Chris's property, and they made him tear them out, but yet that pile of pipe has disappeared again, I don't know where they are, I'm pretty sure they got installed back in, but this is my point, without being checked on constantly and holding a hand, I understand we're trying to save a little money, when again, money really is the greatest concern here, it's just,
Well,
but we really need professional contractors
we,
doing this.
well, we have had a problem here in our community with enforcement, and I'd say for over 30 years.
Correct.
And we've just hired a new, or the town manager has just hired a new enforcement person. Lance has just come on as our planner. So we're trying to move this stuff forward and make some improvements because it hasn't been right. How do you operate for 7 years with no even, say, CO?
And a new building official too.
Yeah, and we got a new building official. So we've got some things that have changed, so we're trying to get this better.
Absolutely.
But tonight, we want to get answers to questions, so whatever questions you have, bring it up, because I think we've got to look at this a lot more closely, and I think we're going to have to continue this public hearing so that there's an opportunity to feedback. But we've got a deadline that has to be met in July, and we said that to begin with.
Yeah, the 65-day review period is up July 12th. So we do have one meeting before that on the 10th. So if you wish to continue the public hearing,
I can also ask, because we canceled our last meeting, that maybe that actually gives more time in the clock. I would assume it'd be another 30 days, but I can clarify that.
Well, if you could, but that, I don't think that's the case.
How many kennels are in the first building and how many kennels are gonna be in the second?
We have an answer to that?
The new proposed building is an additional 40 kennels.
So how do you not require fencing the entire property with 80 dogs?
That's like 60 dollars.
Well, I mean, it's 60. I had 9. I mean, seriously, it's.
There's 40 in the original building?
No.
Between the two, I believe.
And
Oh,
another 10 puppies.
But how do you not require a fully fenced-in premises to keep the animals?
For the dog safety, I question that as well.
Well, it doesn't have to be the entire property, it has to be so that they can be contained, so that they're just
Well,
not
or
loose.
the areas that they can only go to,
Exactly.
Right.
just from wildlife.
No, I agree. That's something I would think that he would bring up, but that's something we gotta consider, and I appreciate you mentioning that.
I mean, I tried to open up a nonprofit on 10 acres, you know, and I was denied because, well, first I couldn't use the word kennel because it had to be on Route 6 because they only allow commercial kennels there. But I didn't get any further just because the neighbors didn't want me there, even though it backed up on 40 acres. But my proposal was to have a fully fenced-in property. So, you know, and I had to live on the premises.
Alan, just one question. There was talk about moving the dumpster to the upper level. Did you mention
I
that or
don't
someone?
recall any conversation on that. I
Okay.
don't recall it, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you don't know anything about
They
that.
mentioned that he wanted to make a pad for the.
Well, there was a requirement in the 2021 that it had to be on a pad and it had to be fully fenced in with 6-foot-high fencing.
But it was on the upper parcel.
But the original, I think the 2021 shows it down below
It does, okay.
at, yeah, where the curve is, right by the brook.
All right.
So, bringing in Phil, where's the building gonna go?
I'm sorry, this
Where's the building gonna go?
new building?
Yeah. Are you gonna take it down? Are you gonna move it
Oh,
aside?
the one way on the bottom?
No, it's a brand new
No,
building.
it's a brand new
Brand new
building.
building, okay,
Yeah.
alright, that's right. Bring
It's
his building.
a second,
Okay,
yeah,
Yeah,
a second
then-
building.
Where's the fill gonna come from? And where's the fill going to come from?
Where's the what?
The fill,
Where's it coming from?
yeah.
Wherever we buy it. I actually had a site on Pinewood Road in Torrington, I was building a gas station, I had 12,000 yards of fill left over. And I told them I could haul it down there, but that's gone now, it's done. I have the next possible fill site or gravel site in the area, I don't know, I have no idea. Again, I'm not handling that aspect of the.
Yeah,
So somebody else is gonna bring in that,
and compact it,
yes.
Well,
and then,
I'm just asking this question because this is about the only opportunity we'll have. Architecturally, this is not gonna be a running, style of kennel with, looks almost like a colonial house. This is another steel walled, flat roofed, commercial type structure. Is that how?
I will say this, they had to be a set of drawings, and asked me to give them a price, and I gave them a price on what they asked for. The next building will be similar to the first building.
So like right over here, that doesn't.
It is not a barn.
That doesn't kind of fit with the architectural nature of other buildings in the area, and it's, like that is.
And was the original,
It's attractive, it's more contemporary than it is by any stretch.
but the original approval, didn't I hear somebody saying the original approval required it fit in with the structures, the architecture of the
That
neighborhood?
was what was in the wording of the approvals.
The approval that in 2016.
So the first building got built,
And it wasn't against the plan of conversation, conservation code. It did not fit the character of the neighborhood. This is a typical, you go to Torrington Industrial Park, Riverton Industrial Park, it's a standard commercial industrial park. You go to Fuel Cell, it's the same building, a little smaller.
No, I agree with you.
Go
We
to our
walked up-
industrial park, it's the same buildings over there as Tony Montitori or any of them. No.
Just so, because I'm new here, and pardon me if this is stupid to say. So you guys are actually considering giving this guy a permit for a second building when for 7 years he's been screwing around and not meeting
actually, he has permission to build a second building now.
Even
He
if-
received it in 2021,
Went to court.
and it went to court because we were sued for our decision, and it was upheld in court. The court approved our decision. So he has an approval right
So
now to build it
You guys gave him the approval to build the second.
in 2021, yes.
Bill and a lot of other people were like, no, you guys went to court. Okay, so you gave him the approval already, all right.
Not for this
Not
change.
for this.
Now for this
He's now
change,
changed.
now for this
This is a
change.
change. No.
Change and flowers.
But at that time, we were told he had a temporary CO and told this was done, that was done.
Alright, so
And
you had
we
one-
put the whole list of conditions that George read, that
Okay.
list 2 pages.
Cause this,
So those are conditions that were from 2021 that have to be done.
That doesn't nullify your approval?
What's that?
The fact that any of the conditions were not met?
Well, he hasn't gotten a CO yet, a permanent CO, correct?
Nope,
He's not gonna get a CO unless he complies with what the conditions.
all the conditions that were approved in 2021.
Are you gonna pull them down? You're gonna
That
go
we
up
will
there,
do. That's what we
start
will
finding,
do. That's why I brought it up to begin with. It's not gonna be a continuous, let's go, and then maybe somebody's gonna change who's here on this board, or who's doing the enforcement. We've gotta have compliance, and that has not had, it has not worked so far. The enforcement person we had here for a lot of years is not here any longer, and he was the one that didn't grant even a temporary, which I don't know what that was all
And
about.
George and I did complain about it for 7 years, believe me. Every meeting.
All right,
One thing is the hours too, Georgie, enforcement
No,
of the
they-
hours. He's been asked recently.
well, that's
He
in
made
the
the six,
application,
and he
and
said
that, we are going to, that's what we're talking about with Lance and our new gentleman that we've got for enforcement.
He's getting away with stuff in a residential area he couldn't get away with in a commercial area.
We understand that. We've got a
That's
problem
just not
with
right.
enforcement. We understand that we've had the problems. The town
Unfortunately, the
manager-
enforcement goes through the selectmen, because they hire,
The town
town manager hires the people to do the enforcement. We don't. We have no say in it.
But we're not trying to just, you know, disappear from this. We're gonna make sure that this is gonna
We're as
happen.
upset as you are.
But I don't wanna close the public hearing when we've got some
No.
more things we've gotta get out here. And with all the conversation and everything else, we've gotta put some thoughts together so that we can get this and talk about it, at the commission, so that we can, if we're gonna grant an approval, it's gonna be subject to a lot of different things, and a reinforcement of what we did in our previous approval. Not going back to 16's got some basic things that have already been covered in the temporary CO letter that went to the owner. And it's gotta be enforced by the 21st of August. And as far as I'm concerned, I think the rest of the commission is set for that, is we're not gonna allow it to be granted as another extension. He's got the right weather to do this stuff. Alan brought up the bond, $5,000, it's already been in place. It's way under what it should have been, but anyways. So we've got some more homework to do, since what Alan's presented to us, we've got the plans. If we don't have any other questions, then let's, continue the public hearing to the,
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for PZC 23-10
I
to,
got one question before you close.
no, go ahead.
My question is, does he pay any taxes to the town of Winchester for his property in that new field?
To my knowledge, no.
Location? No. So there's no.
Both pieces of property are
there's no
nonprofit.
benefit to the town of Winchester monetarily with all of it.
and that we can't make decisions on who's paying taxes and whatever. It's,
Well, it's,
And that question was asked back in 2016, because I asked it about who's the property's
I
name was
agree.
gonna be in,
It's not benefiting
and
the
we were
town of
told
Winchester.
a different answer than what it is today.
he's gotta give up something that,
well, he needs to perform, and he has not, and he hasn't had a good track record. Alan says that he's got a different attitude today.
But he's not here tonight to
He's not here to
discuss it
defend
with us, so.
himself. But anyways, we're not here to get into a fight with anybody either.
All right, I'll make a
Well,
motion.
wait a
Yeah, one
minute.
more.
So we were shown pictures tonight of a newly expanded parking area.
Yes.
Is that parking area part of the drawings that we were given?
Yes, it was.
I mean, where's, no, the ones next to
The
her
one on
house.
the lower end.
No,
Can't be possible.
that was not.
No.
No.
So if it's not on the drawings, so we have a newly expanded parking area that then takes the impervious surface things, calculations.
Yep.
They go all out the window now. So if it's not shown here and we approve this, that parking lot has to disappear, in my mind.
Well, it has to disappear anyways.
Yeah.
He's got no permit to do.
No permits for it.
So, I mean, he's already in violation before he even started.
Yep.
I agree. No, there's action that has to be taken. It's not Alan's situation, it's the owner. Any
Property
other
owner.
questions before the motion comes forward?
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue, to close, or continue the public hearing for PZC 23-10 until our July 10th, 23 meeting.
I'll
At 7
second
p.m.
that.
Craig seconded. Any other discussion about that? Okay. This
Is
is
that
the
July 23rd?
July
July
10th.
10th.
Okay.
That's a drop dead date,
Okay.
unless there's given an extension from the property owner in writing.
You need to vote on that?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor? Okay, we got 5 votes in favor of that. All right, we've got some work to do on this, so let's be prepared on the 10th.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hey, see this one?
Let's put that paperwork
I've got
aside.
another one for 2016 that's bigger than that. Okay? Huh?
We're going to the next, text amendments, PZC
Could we just do
23.
a agenda review and move the new business up? We've got people here waiting, then talk about the text amendments, or you wanna do the text amendments first?
No, let's.
We've got people here been waiting.
Oh, who's,
Oh, yeah, there's,
Got Jim and Dave and Scott,
well,
Scott knows.
I think you're here for this next. So the steep slopes, which is number 3.
Okay, whatever, no, we can move in.
Yeah. All right, so let's continue this is under public hearings. 23-72, zoning text amendments, applicant Town of Winchester. Proposal 1 in section 415-24-J, number 2. Replace the first sentence of the section with new text that reads as follows. In addition, a sign which may be provided by the town must be posted in a clearly visible location within 10 feet from the street on the property which is the subject of the application no less than 10 days before the scheduled hearing and shall remain posted until the hearing commences, and an affidavit must be signed at the time of application acknowledging this requirement. I'm gonna read them all and then we can move. And number 2 is in section 415-24-C, replace the section with new text that reads as follows. Such a site plan shall conform to all requirements laid out in 3H3 as applicable unless the proposed activity involves only work within existing structures with no modifications to the building footprint or any other aspects of the site. It does not increase the parking requirements for the site by changing its use. The commission retains the right to request such a site plan be submitted for any such application should they deem it appropriate. 3, in section 3D5, steep slope regulations, the town finds that the alteration of steep slope areas poses potential risks of erosion, sedimentation, landslides, and the degradation of scenic views. Accordingly, the following requirements are hereby imposed on activities that involve the cumulative disturbance of 10,000 square feet or more on slopes exceeding 15% gradient. And A, no permit shall be granted for the development of or construction on any lot that involves the disturbance of slopes greater than 15% over a cumulative area of 10,000 square feet or more unless a special permit is approved and issued subject to the following conditions. I, adequate erosion control and drainage measures shall be put in place to avoid erosion and sedimentation during or after construction, and all erosion control and stormwater management measures shall comply with all applicable laws and guidelines. And 2, adequate measures shall be put in place to minimize the clear cutting of trees or the clearing of shrubs and other natural vegetation. So that's the first part of that. And then there was the revised section 3, I-2 of the Winchester zoning regulations as follows. Number 2, activities requiring a soil erosion and sediment control plan. A soil erosion and sediment control plan shall be submitted with any application for development when any of the following conditions prevail. A, the disturbed area of such development is cumulative more than 1/2 acre. B, the disturbed area within the Highland Lake HL district is cumulatively more than 4,000 square feet. C, the disturbed area of slopes exceeding 15% gradient is cumulative equal to or greater than 10,000 square feet. A single-family dwelling that is not part of a subdivision of land shall be exempt from these soil erosion and sedimentation control regulations under the 2002 Connecticut Guidelines for Soil Erosion and Sediment Control. So,
Public comment?
David, you're here to help us with some of this.
Yes, did you want to take care of 1 and 2 first? And then,
Yes, please.
yeah, why don't we do that?
All right.
So, is this a public hearing?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
public hearing, yes.
Got it.
So does anybody in the board have any comments? Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, we've hashed it out.
Yeah, we
so
have,
much.
we talked about it. Okay, anybody in the audience have any comments or discussion on this?
You're currently talking about just,
Number 1 and number 2,
1 and 2.
yes,
and 415-24C.
that's correct, yes. Anybody in the audience? No. All right. Well, why don't we act on these two, and we'll do it
Well, we're gonna
individually.
close the public hearing on those two.
We can close the public hearing
And I'll
on,
close the public hearing on PZC 2372, Section 1, Section 2.
I'll second that.
okay, any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Okay,
Now we can open the public hearing on Section 3.
so now section 3 is the steep slope regulations. David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Batista. I'm a licensed professional engineer in Connecticut and with Haley Ward, 140 Willow Street here in Winston. And I'm also a resident of the town of Winchester at 101 Newfield Road. I'd like to speak in favor of these steep slope regulations. In fact, it was upon my initiative that the commission decided to consider these changes, and I think it would be beneficial to this commission and to the people that come along with applications going forward in the future. The regulations as they're currently worded are confusing and have no thresholds in them and make them difficult to enforce. And so what I did in this suggested language is to put a threshold in there for this commission to consider. And if you accept the proposal that I gave you of 10,000 square feet or more, then you really should modify the soil erosion and sediment control sections, which is the last part of what you read, to include item 2C at the bottom. So I'm in favor of this. I think it would be very helpful to design professionals that have to submit site plans to you and understand how the regulations work so that they can prepare a proper site plan. I think it would be beneficial to the people that you regulate, so they understand what they're getting into, and I think it would be beneficial to the commission. And with me this evening is Jim Rollins, Director of Public Works. And the last time we were here to talk about this, we had an informal discussion, and we were supposed to continue that informal discussion on the 12th, but that meeting got canceled. So this is the public hearing. And
Yes.
Jim had some suggestions at the time. I'll let him speak for himself.
So I'm in full agreement that we need to have a better definition of, you know, disturbance and slope and surface area and so forth. I personally think that the 10,000 square foot threshold that Dave proposed is a little too stringent. Having been an excavating contractor for a long time and having, you know, worked for Public Works for 8 years, and just being around construction and land use and permitting, you know, being on the Wetlands Commission for 13 years, I have a pretty good sense of kind of where those thresholds are gonna impact general activity of people. And I just think that the 10,000 square feet is too restrictive. I mean, it wouldn't kill me if 10,000 square feet was adopted, but I think it should probably be closer to 20,000 square feet, roughly half an acre. I realize that gets you into trouble in the downtown areas where your lots are small, which is why the 10,000 square feet makes a little more sense, but that 10,000 square feet still probably gives you trouble on those same parcels, so I don't know that you really lose much. The Highland Lake area certainly is an area of concern, and even 10,000 square feet on that is a pretty big area.
It is.
So I think, I think the concept is great. I've had questions and issues with it, you know, in the past, couldn't really understand, you know, where its thresholds were.
Sure.
So I think some kind of a graduated system, you know, like we do, you know, for other things, where you've got a smaller area, you know, in the Highland Lake zone, and maybe a larger area out in the rural residential is probably in order. And I think, you know, I think, you know, roughly a quarter acre or 20,000 square feet is about right for the, you know, the larger parcels out in the country, keeping in mind that there's not many parcels in town that don't have slopes, you know, that are pretty significant. And 15% on a relatively small area can be managed erosion-wise pretty easy. You know, 10,000 square feet for sure. It definitely gets more challenging, you know, when you double that, but I do think the threshold is a bit low.
What are your comments on it?
But not everywhere in town. You're saying have different requirements for
Yeah, I mean,
the 3 different areas, in town, the lake, and rural.
or at least the Highland Lake district and rural should be different.
Both of those being the 20,000?
No, I think, no, one being bigger, one being smaller,
So
you
the
know.
rural being 20,000
Yeah, and
and
then
the remainder
downtown
being.
being, I don't know,
But,
what is
you know,
it,
we-
4,000?
We've got in there where they can apply for a special permit.
Right.
You know, so they have an option to it. We're not ruling it out.
Yep.
It's
No,
stopping
I
it at 10,000 feet, so.
I
at least we
understand
have-
that, it's just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
for relatively modest activities on big parcels, you're gonna cause them to be getting, you know, coming here and getting a special permit when on a bigger parcel, it's just kind of an insignificant, in my opinion, an insignificant activity. Again, that's throwing it out there as my opinion,
No,
you know,
that's what
based
we're-
on a lot of
that's why we're having
experience.
the conversation.
Talking, yeah.
And I'll give you some examples. Last year, we did a septic system and driveway design for a gentleman that bought a lot up on Preston Road. It was a steep lot. It's an approved subdivision. And, you know, the regulation, even as it's written here, as proposed, he would have had to have gone and got a special permit for that. So how many more applications do you want to hear, and when do you need to hear them? If you increase the buffer, or the requirement to 20,000 square feet, that's roughly half an acre. And the Wetlands Commission already regulates anything with a half an acre or more of site disturbance through the erosion, your zoning erosion control guidelines and regulations, which are delegated to the Wetlands Commission. So, that's why I came up with 10,000 square feet. It was Wetlands Commission already is all over these bigger lots up in Winchester, people have to go get an erosion control plan. And that's the big issue with these steep slopes, is controlling erosion during construction.
Sure.
And, having a good design that doesn't have a landslide, following construction. If you keep the threshold low at, say, 10,000 square feet, you're gonna have more applications to meet. And do you really want them? Do you really need them? If you go up to 20,000 square feet, then a fairly serious project up in the hills will require both a special permit from this commission and an erosion control plan from the Wetlands Commission. And that, the Wetlands Commission component, which comes from your regulations, it's a state law. There's no, well, let's just give it to one commission or the other. You have to have, anytime you're disturbing more than a half an acre, you need an erosion control.
Okay, all right. Commission have questions or comments?
So basically, your suggestion is, would be, advise us to change it to 20,000 square feet, or meet in the middle at 15.
20,000 with good enforcement.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, that's the magic
Yeah.
about it.
There's,
Wow.
That's like all our regulations.
right,
Wouldn't that be the same thing as Bullet A? The disturbed area for such development is cumulative more than one half acre? But that's for any area, correct? Doesn't have to be 15% or greater.
In Winchester, regardless of whether it was on Walnut Street or Platte Hill Road, would be subject to these regulations. So maybe I don't understand your.
So
2C? on the-
2A, the disturbed area of such development is cumulative to more than one half acre.
Okay, that's
Right.
the erosion control section, which I suggested, if you make the change in section 3D5 on the bottom of the first page of your agenda,
Yep.
then you need to revise the erosion control section of your regulations to include 2C. So A and B are already in your regulations, 2A and 2B are already there. It's worded slightly differently, but an erosion control plan is required for anything cumulatively more than one half acre, or in the Highland Lake District, cumulatively more than 4,000 square feet. Those already exist in your regulations. I added 2C. If you're disturbing more than 10,000 square feet cumulatively of 15% gradient land, then you need an erosion control plan. And that links back to the steep slope regulation, where one of the requirements, 3A, item I, adequate erosion control and drainage measures shall be put in place to avoid erosion. So I felt that 2C was necessary to accommodate 3A, small letter I.
Okay. I don't know how many applications, we're not being buried with applications right now, and we could always change this if we found that it was getting cumbersome. So my opinion is that we would go with what David is recommending, and,
We can see how it works, and if we find
exactly.
being overloaded with them, then we can
We don't
increase
have
that
anything
coverage.
now, yeah.
Increase it, but this at least defines it and gives,
that's the important
opens it
part.
up more.
Yeah, that definition and understanding of what the intent was and its meaning,
Is
that's,
what we had before,
that's
it's
huge.
prohibitive.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the amount of effort that, I appreciate your input on this, David, and yours too, Jim. Anybody else have any comments?
Just the last, help me understand, because it says, a single-family dwelling that is not part of the subdivision of land shall be exempt from the soil erosion and sediment control plan regulations. So that's saying that a single family,
Well, it says that if somebody buys a lot up in Winchester or anywhere in town that has been in their family or whatever, someone else's family for 50, 75 years, predating zoning regulations, it wasn't part of a subdivision, it was just a small parcel of land, and they wanted to build this single-family home on it, they would not have to, they'd be exempt from the erosion control regulations in the town zoning
state allows an exemption from the, okay, okay.
So how do you deal with a small property on a lake, those little lots? Is that a subdivision? Those predated the zoning regulations. So,
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
and yet the regulation says you need, if you're gonna disturb more than 4,000 square feet from the Ohio Lake District, you have to come to us for the ordinance.
Yeah.
Lucky if the lots are that big.
Yeah, I know.
Some of them.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Well, they got it, yeah, okay, so anyways, any other questions?
No, I
So-
appreciate the time you put into it.
Yeah, I do too.
How do you handle commercial property versus, you know, residents? Is that covered by another law, or?
One and the same, you handle people, if somebody wanted to build a.
Okay, you just kept mentioning residential, so I was
Yeah.
concerned with it's only residential.
No, no, any project that disturbs cumulatively more than half an acre.
Subdivision of land probably up there. No, that wasn't subdivision.
Certified erosion control.
Willie, you had something?
So,
I don't get what the.
right now, we
Same
take the steep slopes and it's 15% and then it's banned after 25. So we're going to just say we can do it no matter how steep the slope is.
Right, correct.
Okay.
Banning, the point I made when I was here the last time was that ban on anything, any activity over 25% with no threshold, first of all, is onerous. Secondly, it's,
Debilitating.
yeah, there's plenty of, you could have a patch of ground the size of this table that's a cliff, a bedrock cliff, and a zoning enforcement agent could say, this slope is more than 25%. You can't build it. And that forces anybody, even with a small issue, over 25%, would have to seek a variance through ZBA if they were told by the zoning enforcement people,
You can't.
regulation says no build.
Okay, so what we're doing here is we're allowing disturbance on above 25%
Yes.
With a special permit.
with a special permit.
And there's a threshold. If it's a small patch the size of this table, it's this steep, and, you don't have to worry about it. You don't need a special permit. But if you have, something on the North Main Street, that cliff coming down to the road, someone's building a pretty nice driveway down there by the Shell gas station, I see.
Nelson's Corner.
Yeah, the commission would have to entertain a site plan for that under a special permit. It gives you discretion, the special permit process offers this commission wide discretion on whether to approve something or not. And so I felt, just put everything in the special permit category and avoid the need to send people for variances, because it's extremely difficult to demonstrate a hardship, which is one of the tests when you get to the ZBA for variance.
Experience shows that there's not a lot of that happening.
I know, but it should happen.
I agree.
By design, variances are supposed to be extremely
I
difficult
agree,
to get.
I agree.
Hey, Dave, I gotta go back just for a second on that thing you said from a single-family dwelling, that it's not part of a subdivision. Now, these guys probably get that. I'm not that familiar with it. What single-family dwelling is not part of a you said something about 75-year, but how about an old piece of property up on,
To me, that's not part of a subdivision. I brought that example up a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
If there's an old property, let's say, my building lot in Winchester Center was
Right.
created in 1804.
so that's not part of a subdivision?
No.
What is this? Okay, so that's a term of art, subdivision.
Subdivision and re-subdivision are defined in the state
Yeah,
statutes.
so it's a term of art,
Yes.
yeah.
Like Walnuts Hill.
Yeah, no, right. So that means, you do anything on a piece of land like that, and you don't have to file a soil erosion and sedimentation
For
plan?
a single-family home.
Yeah, I know, but, I mean,
You could have a 20%
You do whatever you want.
slope and, erosion problems all over the place, but
really?
that's the state law.
I don't understand it either.
Yeah, because you can get just as much erosion on a lot that's not part of a subdivision. as
kidding.
You can get on a lot that's in a
Yeah.
subdivision.
I don't get it.
But that's the way the state law is
Does the
constructed.
public know about that?
Probably not.
Now, is that an addition you're making to,
No,
or that's been in there?
wording was in your current regulations. And it's born of the state law, this exemption. So I just left it in there. And it's definitely in the state law.
But we can't override the state law. If that's already in there, that's not something this commission can.
We're not saying
State law.
Yeah, don't even start about that.
Wow.
Let's not even talk about it.
All right,
I don't even understand the public policy behind that kind of exemption, but.
so do we have enough information? We can close the public,
I do.
we don't have any other comments or questions from the audience?
I'll make a motion, close public hearing, PZC 23-72.
I'll second that.
Okay, comments, questions, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for all the effort you put in. to help us with this.
Appreciate it, both of you.
Okay, old business is PZC 23-10, that's been continued to the 10th of July. PZC 23-72, zoning text amendments. Applicant Town of Winchester, that's what we've just talked about.
I'll make a motion, we approve the zoning text amendments as presented in section 415-24-J2 and section 415-24-C and in section 3D5.
Do we have a
As
second?
discussed.
Craig's a second. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Okay,
You need to put an
unanimous.
effective date on those?
Yes, what's?
I gave you a draft motion. I know you guys don't really use them.
Well, we used to.
but-
Let me see what
We
we
used
have.
to.
Oh, okay.
If we know,
Didn't know you had it.
I didn't either.
It'll be for this one.
3D dash
Oh, it's one
How many
motion.
papers
okay.
are
This one here, that's,
Oh,
So if you wanna,
George, well, we'll have to do a separate motion on that one, so.
Pardon me?
Oh, I didn't do the one for the,
Oh, okay.
We'll have to do that under
Well, this
separate
is-
motion.
well, this is only
Yeah.
part of it.
actually, the steep slopes on the second page, I didn't do it for that.
You didn't do one?
No.
Okay, all right. All right, so here's the motion here, if you would. Please.
That only gives us two of them.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make another motion for that.
Well, or I can add it to this.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Get at it.
All right,
do
we'll
that.
redo the motion. Motion, Winchester Planning and Zoning Commission adopt the following zoning regulations, text amendments. 1, section 415-24-J2. I'm not gonna read it all. 2, section 415-24-C. 3, in section 3D5, steep slope regulations. And 4 will be section 3I2, activities requiring a soil erosion and sediment control plan. Approve those.
Okay. Did you second it?
Second, I'll second that.
All right. Discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Lance, you'll make sure those other two get added to this? Second page or something.
I think the thought was in case you wanted to change anything, which is why you did them separate. I didn't put it on there, but I will.
We're trying to be efficient here.
that was easy. Now we just do the driveway one. Now we just do the driveway one. Oh,
Okay, number 6, A, PZC 23-7, special permit, 30-day temporary earth excavation application and creation of Avery Farm applicant owner Scott Bashan, is that correct? Bashan, thank you. Location 257-259 Torringford Street, point location is defined. proposal request for removal of screened stone to create hay farm fields, Christmas tree farm, and fruit trees field. So that needs to be so it's a special permit, so we need to set up a public hearing. And our next meeting is the 10th of July. So we've got ECAD to continue. So we need a motion to set this up for the 10th of July.
To make a motion, we do set up a public hearing for July 10th for PZC 23-7, special permit 30-day temporary earth excavation application and creation of Avery Farm. Applicant owner Scott Bachan.
Second.
Craig, second. Any discussion? All in favor? So
You
that'll
were
be
here all
public
night.
hearing on the,
Excuse me?
You were here all night, practically.
Yes.
Just like us.
yeah. So the 10th of July would be the
The
public
public
hearing,
hearing.
so you've got to just comply with whatever
Yeah.
Lance gives you as far as notification.
Can I speak to you for a minute?
Yep.
Okay. PZC. I'll wait for Lance to come back. While he's doing that, everybody pay attention to what's going on in this Middlebury thing?
Yes. Yes.
Did you see that?
State legislation.
Was reading
passed.
the article about Phantom Lake today and then read that one.
Oh, okay, well, I've got a couple articles, I'll give it to you, but I thought, are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not.
In the budget that came forward, that the governor just signed, they incorporated something at the last minute to prevent Middlebury from approving, which they had approved at their wetlands. What, 375,000 or something like that?
Yeah, huge
It's a
warehouse.
Warehouse.
That they were gonna
distribution
build
center.
on the old Timex property there off of
And
84.
This representative lives in Middlebury, and he's only within a half a mile of the thing, and he didn't like that, so they stuffed it into the bill, and nobody was aware of it. And the governor signed it. The governor has, in the articles, said he doesn't agree with it, but he didn't refuse it. But my problem that I see in this, we'll talk about a little bit later with Lance, after Lance is back, but what's next? This is between 6,000 and 8,000 population on a certain specific type of land size.
With a certain amount of wetlands included on the property.
It's an overriding.
And everything, yeah, basically it overrode all zoning.
Yeah.
Took
So
away
there
all
is-
It's not the
right.
first time, this is.
No, it's just
Yeah,
it's
just one
The
more.
next
another
time.
step, another step.
Yep.
The next one will be
But they've been
affordable
pushing
housing
for
or
housing.
something else, and,
Well, that already is done.
No.
well, yeah, but it'll be even worse.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give it a year or two.
So anyways, well, I just think that it's something that we should be paying attention to, even though we're not in that category. But we should let people know that we're not happy with it. But so that's why I've got the article. So think about it, and then we should probably respond to it soon. And I'm not sure who we should direct it to, frankly, but we've got a council of governments that we're involved with.
Well, I think we probably should send a letter to our local representative
Good point.
as a start from committee, planning and zoning committee, hoping that it
Well,
can
I
be
think-
rectified the next session.
Well, I think you should go to the council of local governments,
Yeah,
or
I would
whichever
think
one
that
we're
as
part
well.
of, because
Yeah.
they'll
Well,
go in
even-
and,
yeah, even if
they
we
can
send
go
it
in
to
and
the
lobby
COG.
it.
I mean, we send it to the COG and we send it to
Yeah.
our local
Yeah, yeah.
representative.
Yeah.
Even local senator Steve
More the
Harding.
the more the merrier,
Yeah.
right?
Well, Steve Harding also, I mean, they represent us and,
Sure.
you know, that this needs to be corrected next legislative session.
I agree.
So, basically, they're taking away our control. Our
Well, they
decision
don't care
making.
about that, but
Well, the
Well, that's
decision
what
making,
the
maybe
issue
there's
is.
some other
Right.
way to put that.
well,
Yeah.
our decision making abilities on a local level, so. You write a good letter, Charlene, so.
Yeah.
Get working on it.
Yeah.
Now also Beacon Falls.
Yes,
Beacon Falls.
I think there's.
They're the ones that are very upset.
6 communities.
Yeah,
New Hartford's in it.
yeah. New Hartford is
Yeah.
too, sure,
Different talks.
yeah. If we lose any population here, we'll be in it, so. I think the lake residents are going to another town, so.
All right. There goes
You know,
your tax base.
Lance-
Oh, we still got Lake Winchester
Lance
Park.
should talk to that person, Mr. Bashan, later. I mean, he's supposed to be in here for our meeting.
Yeah, I agree. I
I think,
don't
did
know
you
why.
see some of this stuff in here on this application?
I didn't look at it.
Lance has, this has got a huge report about all kinds of weird stuff going on in this.
Well, this is the one they've been trying to catch somebody for years.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is nothing new.
I see,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
It's been
Got it.
violated
I
forever.
got it.
And then he made a pond without
Yeah. So what's he trying to get out of us now when he's already,
Well, they're trying to wrap it up, but Lance will
tell us?
tell us about it.
Okay, but he should be doing that instead of talking to him right now.
Legally threatened.
Pardon me?
He's being threatened, Adam says he can hear Mr. Vashon threatening Lance.
Oh, cute.
5 years ago. Is that right?
talking,
Yeah, well, because he's mad he didn't get away with what he wanted to do.
It's been a history of this.
Yeah, I know. Lance?
Hey, Lance, let's go. Take care of that later.
We're adjourning the meeting at 9:30. I've already made the motion, so.
All right, later, afterwards, let's, tell us a little bit about the background on this thing.
Yeah, yeah.
okay?
I mean, we just went through your papers.
PZC 23-12-824, referral applicant owner, Town of Winchester, location Mountainside Drive, proposal sale of town-owned 118.14 acres vacant land located in the rural residential district. We have something on that?
Yeah,
there's the whole program.
packet here.
The whole package in the back.
This is the, Mountainside Drive, yeah, okay. So this is just so that the town can actually introduce this to, for sale?
Correct. Yep.
So it's
So
no
you have to
action
give
that
up-
actually taken place? It's,
No, they'll still have to come before the board for any kind of proposal.
It's out for RFPs right now,
Right.
first looking, some
Yep.
people to
That's
purchase
all
it.
this is.
We just need something, a straightforward, positive referral on the 824, which is this proposal here.
Yeah, the only concern I have, I mean, is if, you know, we've cut back to 2 schools. What if the population builds, what if they needed to build another school? There's no room at Hinsdale to add on. What does the town have for property or anything in town for?
Can they bus them to other schools?
What's that?
Couldn't they bus them to other schools? Don't the kids all go to 10,000 different schools right now as it is?
That's what the Board of Ed wants to do, farm them out. I don't know, I'm just saying.
No, I know.
You know, that's my concern as a taxpayer and a resident is,
Well, exactly. I
You know.
mean, we're in Hinsdale and all of a sudden there's some huge explosion based upon some formula being.
well, right now it's at, almost at maximum capacity from what I've been told. and-
Already?
It was.
Yeah, I think it was when they built it,
Right.
you know, it should have been 10,000 square, or
It's a
100,
state
whatever.
formulation, yeah.
I wasn't on the committee, but, you know, that's my only concern, because, you know, at least there, this property has city utilities presently to it. Just where else does the town own a piece of property that they could build a building on if they need to? You know, there's not a lot of properties around town
So,
that have utilities that they could build.
so we could, are you?
I'm
is
just
your
bringing it up
point
for
that
discussion
if
is all.
If this commission doesn't do an 824,
Bank of America.
This is, whatever we do is a recommendation.
okay, so in other words, this wouldn't stop the proposed, the
Doesn't have to, it
RFP.
changes the
Office
mix on how
building in
they can
fourth grade
proceed.
until they built
But
another
they can
high
proceed
school,
without a
Oh, yeah,
positive
no.
or something
recommendation.
No.
like that, but, yeah.
Nope, I understand.
Take
So,
Head Start.
so what's the point?
in Bank of America.
Okay, so what's, okay. So what's the recommend, I mean, is there a downside to not doing the 824?
Well,
referral?
we're required to give either positive.
No,
or
I understand, but
negative.
is there what's the upshot of not doing it, of
Well, if
voting
it's a
against it?
negative, I believe then they wouldn't be able to sell it.
Oh, they could, but
They
they,
could.
they have to have a different mix of how many selectmen are in favor
Oh,
of
okay.
it. Isn't that correct?
No, I just brought it up for discussion purpose, only just something to think about.
Well, it's a good point. That's why I'm asking. It's not just a pro forma thing that we do.
Well, they have the other, 12 or something acres next to that building right there.
Well, it's not an ideal site for a school anyways. It's fairly steeply sloped, so if you need, like athletic fields.
Part of it is right, but
So, it's, but it, not being great is certainly better than not having anything.
where is the steep slopes in this town? I don't really.
Well, that's why we're addressing.
There's 51 acres up by Camp Delaware too, but, you know, you could build a school on, but, you know, you got slopes up there and wetlands. No.
It would be nice if we could turn some of these buildings in town into affordable housing. So
Right.
mill buildings like on the corner of, Nader's building right there, right on the corner of 44 and Rowley and.
No, there's a permanent restriction on that building. You could never build housing in that building.
Really?
From the brownfield remediation. There can never be residential in that building.
Oh, interesting. I always thought I heard that he wanted it for the school.
No, that was never on the table, but
Got it.
we did the remediation in the aughts.
Could it be like office, but it could never be
Yes,
residential?
correct.
Commercial and
Yeah.
business, yeah.
All right, so we got this,
So-
request.
On this 824.
Yes.
This was previously a 105 lot subdivision, and that approval is expired. We're under no obligation to approve another 105 lots. It could be smaller, or it could be greater.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. So they'd have to come with couldn't use like the plan that was
They'd have to bring
already
us a whole plan.
approved.
Yeah.
They'd have to use their own plans.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's-
I mean, because I'm voting on it, I have to ask this one more time. If there was a negative referral, that just means that the Board of Selectmen has to take an extra step or do something more to.
I think the mix of how many selectmen have to be in favor of whatever action you take is greater.
I
And
think
this
so.
is the Mountain View you're talking about?
Yeah. So you mean it puts the burden back to the Board of Selectmen to
Yeah,
really step up behind the program?
that's my understanding, but, you know, that's,
I don't know. I mean,
you're not forced to deny it if we don't give you a positive recommendation.
yeah, it would be something that obviously the selectmen
Would
would
look-
want to do to go against
True.
its own commission.
Well, I kind of feel like I haven't even read this yet, so I mean, I don't have any, how do I know whether I want to support the referral?
It has water and sewer there.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to come of any offers. We have no idea.
This
Well, I
is, this
understand
is
that.
just to offer it.
Right, this is just like, okay, we have this property, it's got water and sewer. What are your ideas? We don't know if it would be a senior assisted living facility or anything, I don't know. Little houses. I don't know.
No, but I think what Peter brought up too.
That didn't work
is-
last time. Oh, those are big houses,
When are
right?
the RFPs,
What?
when are the RFPs due in?
Oh, I don't know, look it up.
'Cause I mean, we've got till August 4th to look at this, based on the review process period.
You have any?
I was just saying, I think it's in the packet for the,
What is?
RFP.
Oh.
I think they'll look at something like July 17th or something, I think.
They released it May 16th,
Yeah, June 16th.
June 16th.
Oh,
they should
July
have it by
17th,
now.
Monday,
July
no later than
17th.
Monday,
Beginning.
July 17th.
Yeah.
Go to page 5 for the
You missed
school.
that one.
Yeah.
They should have them last week, and then.
Oh, I see, but in here it also says the RFP proposals are required back Monday, July 15th, 17th.
Yeah, it's a whole chart here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that means we have one more meeting?
The 10th.
So the RFPs have already, I mean, there's already an RFP proposal out there. Developers can respond to that. I still don't understand, okay.
They should have
I'm missing
responded by
something.
June 16th, according
I don't know why you
to
have
the
to do an
progress.
824.
Yeah,
Oh, you have to do an 824 to release it?
I'm,
Well, but we're not releasing it. I don't understand, because we never usually see this.
Because
Because we never see it
we
until
haven't
there's
sold
a
anything.
proposal
No.
for sale or
Yeah,
somebody wants to
exactly.
buy the
That's
We don't
town-owned
know what
property.
it would be, so I'm not sure.
I know, that's why I'm curious about what we're,
Like the cart before the horse.
right.
Yeah.
Why,
Well, it's kind of like 17 Front Street. You had to do an 824 referral
Right.
before they could sell
You
it.
knew it was gonna be a house.
Right.
Yeah, but
well,
you'd already
They
gone
had-
through the
they had a
process.
buyer.
of,
They had a buyer, they'd had it listed,
Yeah.
and everything else.
I don't know, I'm just a little.
Well, I asked that
I'm asking
question
because I'm a
too,
little
but-
uncomfortable
I mean,
about
this
why
is a
we're
little
doing
unusual.
something
We get
now.
2/8/24 referrals
Right.
and things.
I think we should just continue this until our second meeting in July.
Yeah, let's find
Yeah.
out.
And we'll have more information at that
Yeah.
point. That's,
Because nothing's
that's my
happened.
opinion, but
Yeah, just an RFP.
do whatever you want.
So where's the 1824 listed in planning and zoning regulations?
No, it's
That's a
state
state
statute.
That's a state statute.
So do they have to do 824, but on whatever the project is, not just like,
Well, it's
Yeah,
it's
I
not,
don't
no, it's
know.
not
I don't need
on
this.
what the project is. It's if you, as selectmen, want to go ahead and sell it to somebody as a developer,
You
you
need,
need
you
an
need that.
824 referral for.
but-
Kind of like
we don't
us
know
saying,
what we wanna do.
Exactly,
Well, that's-
and the
we don't
propo,
know.
the RFP is,
The proposal we would like, because we
yeah,
Right.
but the RFP's already out there, so
Yeah, and
he's
it's-
getting responses or not, so
Yeah,
I
so
don't know,
this
I
is-
think this is premature
Yeah, I
for
agree
us.
kind of like asking us that, oh, this is surplus, it has
Okay.
no future needs to the town.
Next
or
time.
I don't think
planning
we have
and
to
zoning,
take any action on
You know,
it,
plan
frankly.
of conservation development that, oh, we don't need this property, type of thing. It would be nice to know that ahead of time.
Yeah, like you gave 824 for Baxter, you gave 824.
Yes.
Right, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we've done many of them over the years.
You know what they're gonna be.
But-
Right,
Exactly.
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a,
It's just a little premature, I think, at this point.
yeah. All right, so I'm gonna just say, no action taken.
We can use it to, like the July 24th meeting, the second meeting in July.
Yeah, we can put it back on that calendar, the second meeting in July.
July 24th?
I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen, whether you've got any,
10th, so 14 days after.
whatever you've
No.
got,
I'd look up what 824 means in terms of,
the state,
At that time, we should have some additional information.
yeah, for what's happening.
Yeah, because the,
what constitute
Right.
initiating an 824.
We may not have a budget, we may have to sell it to
well,
make
there may be no proposal,
They have to sell it.
payroll. We have to sell it quick to make a fire sale,
Yeah.
payroll.
and there may be no responses to the RFP, so,
Well, exactly, we don't get
Yes,
responses.
exactly, yes.
Or we get them, we don't get.
May not have anything that's of interest.
right, right,
Yep.
okay,
Next.
later.
All right, the next issue is,
Maybe not, well, we never know.
6C, PCC 23-74, special permit, owner Fracasso, Henry Fracasso, applicant Lydia Michaels, location 58 Holmes Drive, proposal home occupation, special permit application of town single-family zoning district. So we need to set that up for a special permit,
I think that's a quick one, we could probably do on the 10th.
I would say.
I'll make a motion, we'll hold a public hearing on PZC 2374, special permit, Henry Fracasso, applicant Lydia Nichols, 58 Holmes Drive, home occupation, special permit application.
I'll second that.
Create a second, any discussion, all in favor?
I could put it first on the agenda too. so
Yeah, that would be
sit
good, if
wait.
we can get that first,
Yeah.
and, so they don't have to sit through all the rest of what's going on.
Okay, let's see, other businesses, 7, discussion regarding driveway ordinance regulations with Public Works Director Jim Rollins.
For the record, Jim Rollins, Director of Public Works, Town of Winchester. So, as you know, we've been batting around the driveway ordinance for a long time. There's still, I was away for the last couple of weeks, so I really did not do much since the last time we spoke. I have taken a bunch of comments from Todd Parsons and Dave Batista from Hallie Ward to get their opinion, because they do a lot of, a lot of driveway designs. And they gave me a lot of really, really good feedback, just kind of based on consistency. Mine was kind of a little, kind of all over the place. a lot of typos, a lot of just, but a lot of good feedback. It's not quite ready to go to the selectmen yet. We've got to run a few more things past Nelligan. He's working with me on definitions, apparently there is no real definition of a paper road, which is something.
No kidding.
Which is something that we kind of, is kind of one of the foundations to this. So we need to, I need
But
to
as
get.
you know, he said we gotta stop using that term.
Right, so I need to wrap, I need to wrap my.
It's a map, it's a map on, a road on a map.
Well, it's not,
Not
essentially.
even that.
No.
Private road, unimproved. That's
Unimproved
what the
private
law.
road.
Yeah, right, it's an unimproved private road.
Yep.
right.
Well, and then there's different definitions in here.
Of
Unimproved
improved, yeah.
essentially means unpaved according to DOT. So we've gotta pull all these
Define some
pieces
things,
together,
yeah.
Yeah.
we're on a good track, and essentially, the biggest thing that we've done is really clarified, in definitions, some of the important things like, what is reconstruction, what is maintenance, what is new. That's really where
Yeah,
our problems lie, and, allowing maintenance, which was not really even allowed before. So that's gonna make the whole thing way more doable. So I gotta go back and sit down and just kind of crunch all these things back together. But we're on the right track with, with the definitions. And I think everybody, last I knew was on track with kind of the general maintenance stuff that's obviously maintenance, which is pretty much listed in the definitions, should be allowed. If we can make some improvements along the way, great. But virtually, so many
Well,
of
we
the
gotta
parcels
start
in town.
somewhere, this has been going on for a long time.
A long time.
Discussion. Can you have something for the next meeting,
That is when,
10th of July?
July 10th,
oof,
unless you wanna try for the end of the month, which
Maybe the
July
24th,
10th is
maybe?
kinda.
24th?
Can we do that, Jim?
And was there any talk with Kevin about the process for the Board of Selectmen to?
yes,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
So, that was another thing that, let me see if I can find that page. So, we were under the false impression that an ordinance had to be the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to be in charge of. So we were thinking of changing this to a regulation rather than keeping it as an ordinance. And Kevin says that's not true. It can be an ordinance, but the ordinance states that, the actual work of operating the ordinance is, kind of split between, me in the right of way, you on the land, and then, but there has to be an appeal to that, which could be ZBA at that point.
all right.
So he said
Okay,
that's,
but I have to say, being really familiar with this charter in this town, that the town meeting, any citizen has a right to challenge for a rescission of an ordinance. This should be part of the planning and zoning regs, not part of the regulations and ordinance. Otherwise, it puts it in jeopardy of what I've just said.
Interesting.
okay,
Planning and zoning regs are not subject to that challenge by citizens.
Other than court.
Of the court.
Yeah, but that,
Right.
no, I'm saying in the charter, you can.
Yeah.
No, the
file
charter,
a-
anybody can challenge
You
it, but
can file a petition to rescind
Exactly.
an ordinance. I mean, there's a process it has to go through. It doesn't mean it's gonna pass, but a planning and zoning regulation should not be subject to that. That should only be the town meeting should only have the right to challenge policy decisions of the Board of Selectmen that they make through their ordinances, through that process, not planning and zoning things. So I think you need to talk to Kevin about that challenge provision in our charter.
well, all he did was tell me that it doesn't have to, if it's an ordinance, it doesn't have to be the
No,
selectmen that are ruling on it.
he's right about that, but my point
But-
is that.
But if you guys decide you think it's
Yeah.
better off
Just
being,
from what you said, it's.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Which means that also, though, it has to be rescinded by the Board of Selectmen, so it's no
right,
longer on
right,
the ordinance.
right, and
Okay, all right.
that's the direction we were going.
Exactly.
But then when Kevin clarified that,
Yeah, well, I thought
You know,
you were saying, he
I-
said
I
you could
think-
just amend the existing ordinance, that the ordinance that exists now on driveways, and make it this, with the authority to oversee it being on the commission, the
You
planning.
could.
I know, but that then makes
it
it
can be
subject
challenged, yeah.
Right,
to the
but,
town meeting
but
challenge.
if I'm, you know, so what I'm hearing now is that's not what you
That's
want.
not
what we
And I don't believe it's what, you know, I think.
The Board of Selectmen don't want that either,
Yeah, they
right?
don't want that either, so.
And the other problem I could see, if it's an ordinance again, you have the whole rigmarole that the selectmen have to go through if we want to make changes in it. If we find there's something
Right.
wrong with it.
Exactly.
Once we implement it,
Another good
Yep.
point, yes.
we can change it. It takes public hearing and we can change it. So
Right.
within a month, we can change it.
That's
So
right.
with the selectmen, there's a longer, yeah, there's like 3 meetings and
Yeah.
a public hearing and a
Different
town
standard.
meeting to change this,
Yeah.
you know, if it's an ordinance.
Okay.
I'm just looking at it
Yeah,
as,
that's.
Yeah,
a good
so
point.
knowing that
we've
that's
all
the
looked at
direction
it.
that we all
there's
wanna
A lot of
go.
input, and a lot of
So
thought
let me
put
just
into
be,
it.
let me just be sure that,
Yeah.
that I get what you're saying. You want it to be a
That the
P and Z
ordinance,
reg.
the existing ordinance needs to be rescinded by the
Rescinded.
Board of Selectmen, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission needs to adopt this as a regulation, amendment to its
Right,
regulations.
and we could actually adopt it as amendment to the regulations before they rescind the ordinance. That could be done. We just can't enforce it
Right.
until the ordinance is.
Okay, I see what you mean.
We couldn't
yeah.
enforce it until
Got it,
the
okay.
ordinance
Mm,
is.
Yeah,
Yep. And they wouldn't want to rescind it
No.
until there was something in place, so.
Sure.
Interject, if you don't mind.
Please.
Advice, please. I kind of agree with Charlene, in not on the technicalities of the reason to put it in the zoning regulations, but I find it easier to work inside of zoning regulations
Yes,
as a design
sure.
professional.
yeah, yeah.
And there is.
It's all
precedent for
there.
that. I gave Jim a couple examples of towns that I know of, Salisbury and Sharon have driveway regulations right in their zoning regulations.
And there it is.
Yes,
Right.
you need this kind of plan, you need, you know, no more than X%
Mhm.
slope, et cetera, et cetera. And I just find it.
You don't have to look
easier.
somewhere else.
Right, ordinances are a pain in the
Of
fanny.
course, yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Okay.
And sometimes they're 79 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
and-
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
Yeah, so, yeah, you're,
Good
this is
point.
the better approach for this.
and then you have to create a division at the right-of-way line where Jim has to have a separate encroachment permit, stuff going on in the highway. So
Would that be part of this regulation?
it could-
I would think.
What Dave's talking about would be part of this regulation?
Yeah, the state of Connecticut on, you know, when you go get a driveway permit from the DOT.
Yeah.
They focus right on that curb cut.
Right.
Few certain issues.
And that's all
don't
they-
care what's going on.
They could care less about the rest of it, the
Right, as
driveway.
long as there's no drainage
Could be
coming
10,000
down,
feet
no
long.
sidelines,
Yep.
And you have a bonded and insured contractor, then you get a permit.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think Jim needs to have his little kingdom cut off to avoid distractions from him, not getting sucked into
Yeah.
a 2,000-foot-long driveway.
Right.
Who knows where that should
Right.
land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where we run into trouble. It's like, you know, what looks good from my perspective may not make any sense to you. So
Well,
it's.
We've already run into that issue tonight.
Yeah,
you go.
right.
Right.
Boy, that's
We're
a,
there tonight, yeah.
Yeah.
Early.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, there you go. That's it. It doesn't get a better example than
yep,
that.
Yeah.
that's prime example right there.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, the second meeting in July, is that possible?
Yeah, that was 7/24.
Yes.
That gives it a month,
Thanks, Jim, that's good.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
thank you.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that wrapped up and for everybody.
Thank you.
Take the burden off of you and,
Of everybody. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
completely a
Good.
useless document the way it is.
well, we've had a subcommittee that met for 8 or 9 months,
No,
twice,
I agree with you.
twice a month, and Jim and Dave were, I think, at every one of them.
Well, we closed the
Yeah,
public
huh?
hearing, so.
Well, they're all different.
This is a
They're all
separate
different. Some
Yeah.
have it in zoning regulations, some have ordinance, most have.
Yeah.
They added it to,
Connecticut.
did they add it to the end?
Was it,
What do you add it to?
hey, Lance, was this part of tonight's application?
Yeah, for the sign. He's,
So we'll deal with it.
So you're, and any approval, but it's not gonna go forward on this.
no, it could have been proved on our OpenGov zoning, but I figured since he was coming, I wanted to, and George
Well, no, it
said it
should
was
be,
an issue.
yeah.
Yeah,
Then we need
better
to.
get it through the whole.
Right,
Okay,
so we're putting it forward
okay,
as part of this, yeah.
all right.
Okay, so the next thing is the minutes from May
Um,
22nd.
On other business,
Okay.
no, go ahead, I'll bring my stuff up afterwards. Go ahead. Minutes. That's where
No,
it's-
we're on other business.
Um,
Sorry.
Yeah, question, Lance, what's going on with all these pole sign, flag signs along the road, like Riverside Eatery, the New Delhi?
Yep, so.
They're not allowed in our regulations,
Candace
but they
is
keep,
still here.
they keep
is
exploding everywhere.
100% correct.
No, and I'm just saying, what
Yeah.
are we doing about it?
Yeah, well, to be honest, what the plan was for 314 Papa's Market that just came through, we wanted them to get settled in as a new business, let him get established, which he has, but he knows that that tarp sign on the roof
Well, I'm
has
not
to
even
come
talking
down.
about the tarp sign, I'm talking about
The
these
feather
feather
ones,
signs that
I-
are out by Case Avenue that blocks your, you know,
Right.
you can't see around the corner.
Town property.
And
It's not even on
they
your
shouldn't be
Well, it's on
allowed,
state
right,
land.
they're on state property,
It's on state land, actually.
and
Those are.
Riverside Eatery
Whatever,
has
right.
had them
Those
for
plants
months.
in there maintaining, why should I put stupid banners and flowers up if it's gonna be blocked by
Right.
someone's sign? And
But
it's our
it isn't
main-
just there, we've got them up and down Main Street.
Yeah, well, then you got River.
River,
Eatery,
Eatery, right,
And I was watching Dunkin' Donuts takes them out every night, okay? So that covers their buttocks a little bit, but they're further away, and if you go to other towns, they're further away from the sidewalk,
I-
I mean, the street, so you're not, at River Eatery, went there, I couldn't even see, the thing
No.
was like going back and forth.
no, and those are on state property there, again.
Well,
So
it
And they're-
close to the road.
should be
They've been in
allowed.
business now for quite
But
some time, so
I
I
can
agree.
understand
They say
making an
open,
exception
they
for a
say
week
hamburger.
for a grand opening
Right,
or
okay,
something.
right.
The
You
others
know, we
say
want
open.
business in town, but more than a week, they need to be removed.
No, I agree.
Um,
And the only other thing was the 30-day,
30 to 60-day maximum.
correct, with a renewal for 60 days.
But
But
they've
that
gotta
was,
get in there and get permission to do it.
right, and you're right, it's not the feather signs. Those,
No.
we looked, those
The
are not
open
allowed.
signs,
Those
okay,
are not allowed,
30
period.
30 maximum 60, no renewal of, I see renewal at 30 for, up
Right,
to 60.
right.
Got it.
Yep. So, yeah, absolutely correct.
So you're
When
following up on
You
that?
brought that to Josh's attention, Josh brought it to my
I said,
attention.
I'm coming for Lance.
No, that's fine.
I'm letting you know.
I said she's
Sorry.
absolutely right. This was my response to him.
Well, and
We won't hear
it's
about
his job
this
to get
next
the
week
plants
if we
in
don't
the-
remember to bring it up.
So,
Yep.
you know.
You're talking
So,
about
the answer is yes.
Mention, and
Anything
with
we
one
ask
seventy-five
for,
Main
like, I
Street,
want
I mean,
that
I was looking through the
hydraulic
enforcement stuff,
from the original application.
Yeah.
you know,
Who's 175?
where they've cleaned up the fence and things like that, Gianni's Deli.
Next time.
No, no.
We need to refer back to the original approval,
Yeah,
For
so
that, which-
unfortunately, the
which
approval was just
including the
that
dumpster on the gas man property.
they can't make that work.
I mean,
We've,
otherwise-
trust me, we've been talking to them a lot.
They need to create, they need to create fencing with monstrosities around it to hide it, just like we made them do with, Frontier or whatever's next door.
Well, we got 10 garbage cans out on Main Street from Sunday night till Monday morning.
Right. Well,
It's
they're
disgusting.
under, exactly. So if you wanna talk about that one specifically,
No.
more than welcome. We've been working on that for quite some time. So it is the the other restaurant actually takes their garbage off-site, but it
Always.
is all the apartments
Right.
that utilize those,
Yep.
you know, dumpsters or whatever you want, and they're not dumpsters, but the trash receptacles. The approval was only that it couldn't be in the front of the facade, so it's very strangely worded. So they were kind of contesting, well, if we have them on the side of the building, that's what actually planning and zoning requested, and we're saying no, because it's still in the visual as you're coming down the road.
So where can they put them?
Well, right now, they're still stacked
still
along
on
the
the
side
side
of
of
the
the
Where
building.
could they put them?
Well, that's what Jeff and I were working on. They could have put them in between the buildings, which is what I was suggesting, but then they're saying that they're too heavy to be able to pull up the hill.
Right,
outside,
yeah.
Which would be the same issue for putting them underneath the deck and there. So
Yeah.
they wanna come back to us with, actually, I have them at my house. It's like these storage container units where you put the garbage inside and then it closes itself up, so they would be stacked along that side.
So it's almost like the Tupperware house.
Right. So it's sort of a weird
Yeah,
compromise,
like a
but.
rubber
Yeah, like a storage, small storage unit
Yeah.
along the building.
They tried, I guess, to talk to Gasman about doing actually, they should have 2 dumpsters on that
Well, they
site
should, one
in
for
Squosh.
recycling and one for,
Right. That's,
for
but
rubbish,
they can't,
right.
they can't make it work. So,
What?
Gas ban isn't gonna.
Gasman
prevent
isn't
it.
cooperating with them for doing
Oh,
a
okay.
separate type of
see,
surrounding.
and that's something, and that's what they told us at the hearing,
That they would.
that they would.
Yeah, well, we're getting told
And
they won't.
now
So,
we're getting different
So
stories.
that there's an enforcement action?
yes,
being started,
and
okay.
Jeff is pursuing it, and he's been very much
How's
in
Quick Stop?
contact
How's
with
Quick
the.
Stop,
That's in
responding?
here too.
Okay.
Okay,
Actually,
all
I
right.
think
I'll
we're
make-
getting a little better compliance with them.
Okay.
They are gonna do some plantings along the bank side.
Well,
in
I
the
want the
dumpster.
garbage dump thing
Right,
enclosed,
will be
yeah.
enclosed.
Okay.
But I think,
Was it that, the old Honey Buns?
No.
Oh.
No, that's-
On Division,
787
Division.
across
Oh,
from.
yes, yes.
Quick
yeah.
Stop on
No, that's
Division.
good, that's
Yeah.
been addressed.
Yep.
The other one I had was 178, 180 Raleigh Street.
Oh, okay, so that's Kevin. I've actually been in
The last,
contact with
the
him.
last proposal we had that we approved was to put up storage buildings there for that whole parking lot. That was when Berlinski's owned it. And we've
Storage
had-
building, right,
We've had nothing else come into us for change of use of that property.
right.
Now we've got all these sheds that he's selling, which are not permitted, and U-Hauls, which are not permitted.
He says the U-Haul business was in place prior. He said it should be.
Oh, it was in place before he bought it.
It may be there before he bought it, but it was never permitted by
Right.
us. The last thing permitted was the storage structure.
Which is the second story of the building, correct?
No, for the parking
and-
lot, they were gonna build a storage area there
Oh.
for individual storage area.
But they didn't do it.
No, they never did it.
Yeah.
No, that was when Berlinski owned it. And that's in, if you look back through the property records, that's in our last approvals on that. But I mean, they really, if they wanna do this, I mean, I have no problem with them selling the stuff, but they should be coming to us
Get it approved.
to get it approved.
The other concern they
No.
had was the paving requirement. He said-
Well, and that's something we need to talk about because of pervious and impervious pavement. You know, we may wanna look at, put stone, put something else there other than that would look good. It's,
Stone.
yeah, you know, nice crushed stone, you know, whatever.
Alright.
And landscape or doing something, but I mean, it should come in for that.
He's got
So-
temporary signages also for.
Yeah, I know.
all of
There's
them,
another one too,
Which I need
that-
to tell him
Yes.
he can't keep.
No,
So how long is temporary sign good for?
7
30
years
days
at
if
least.
you permit. Yeah,
They gotta get a permit.
30.
Oh,
And then again with the renewal.
7 years, right.
But none.
Or 7 years in our.
7 years. Well, in Winchester Center, 7 years.
well, all those containers, you know, like, what's his place across the street?
All right, that's all I had on that stuff. Then I'll get up to the
That's,
minutes
I
afterwards.
think, first of all, you're taking some steps to follow up on this.
No, I mean, and this report,
Absolutely.
report from Jeff.
And what
right.
you-
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're getting a lot of compliance, believe it or not. As you notice, there are things that have been taken off the list.
Well, and
because-
I think the more people hear us and see you and Jeff out there
Yeah.
and see
Absolutely.
it
And
being
being
enforced,
consistent and uniform, just
and it's
what you
being
brought up too
enforced
about
and being
all
done
this.
uniformly.
This is what I've
You'll
been
get
talking
more
about
compliance.
for a long
I
time.
can tell you some good
Thank
news.
you
There
for
was no
bringing it.
shenanigans going on this past weekend in town. I was out and about looking for it.
Way before he came on board.
Oh, yeah.
Other ones.
Oh, sure.
No, don't even get going there. We'll be here all night.
All right,
longer.
but yeah, we're
Okay.
getting late, so,
Minutes?
Shenanigans.
Oh, with just enforcement issues.
Oh.
Like,
How about the attraction from the Laurel Lanes? That's still there, do they come up, because there's no place for them to throw anything there, except for they own the whole block next to them.
yeah.
So, yeah, they
Oh,
always, I haven't noticed it
Tony
though.
has got trash bins.
They had trash bins in the right-hand corner facing it, but when they moved in, they would throw their stuff around the side, and there's, fencing, a very narrow wall there.
Yep.
And so there is really no place to, but I haven't been looking there recently, you know, more zoning enforcement, I think should be the post office in there, guarded. Oh, God, it's horrible.
Yeah, that was a New Delhi at the, next to the post office. One of
Papa's
the
Market?
thing, yes, one of the things, part of our approval was they had to enclose dumpsters.
He knows, and we gave him an example of what to
And-
build. And it has to be, what was it, 15 feet from the building? Is that what
Whatever the fire
code is?
marshal
Yeah.
code requires, but I mean, they had to be fully enclosed on all 4 sides.
Yep,
6-foot
he
high chain
knows.
link fencing, okay.
So is he
And that's-
operating already?
Oh, yeah.
Done.
They've been open for a month.
Yeah, I
now.
know, he's been up and open, but
unfortunately now I gotta crack
what's
the whip a
game
little
plan?
bit.
Yeah, when? 'Cause so.
Oh, yeah,
we
it's
need-
happening.
Okay.
I'm talking with
But
him
we're
all the time.
asking about it and,
He still wants to do the freestanding sign, so we kind of have a lot of back and forth with that
well,
because
if he wants a
can't be
freestanding
internally
sign,
limited.
we need to see some action,
Right.
my opinion.
Where's he, what's he gonna do?
The old honey bun sign,
Oh, yeah.
he wants to put in a new one, but he got a permission for one that's way too busy in my opinion. I'm trying to encourage him to just use a logo with Papa's Market, that's really all he
It's
needs.
so pretty.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
simple and
No.
pretty. It is, it's so, you know, that other thing is just monstrous, some of it.
Yeah.
You might
It's
as well
not
have a
staying.
solar panel.
Right.
You know?
His sister or somebody ordered that and I was like, oh god, like why did you get
Well,
this
honey
huge?
buns have a horrible sign too. so it's like-
True.
It's just kind of not out.
All right, we're getting before 10.
Do we adopt the minutes? Or-
No, let's,
They're gonna utilize that one.
let's act on the approval of minutes for May,
Yeah, before we act on them, I've got a concern with the way they're written and typed up. There's,
agree.
none of our motions or anything we made or information's here.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's nothing, no information on this for motions, where we made conditions of approval or anything.
And once you get
That's
out of
really,
the,
well, wait a minute, that's really required by law. The action.
Yes, it is.
Under the law, you have to have a motion
I mean,
by
it
by
may take
whom it was made, and
5
what the
pages
vote
to do
was.
it, but
Yeah,
well, if it is, it is.
you don't have to necessarily have
need more
every,
information, you know.
every bit of
Well, wait a
conversation.
minute, what do you mean? Like, I'm looking at, ECAD's first one, it says motion accepted.
Well, like, see,
application.
you know, Sand LLC, there's nothing listed about the motion information, just motion by me and staff resolution. You know, what conditions did we put? We put conditions that he had to have a dumpster enclosure. There's
Oh,
nothing
okay.
there.
Okay.
So the information should be listed with the motion on
Right.
every one of them.
Because this is the public record.
Because
So-
otherwise, you gotta go back to the recording
Yeah.
of the
Right,
meeting,
see what was said.
you know, so
Or into
before
the
we approve
file,
these, I
find
think
out,
they
yeah.
should be rewritten.
Okay.
So like
Well-
our previous meetings have been.
And I think that.
And I realize there's new staff and new help and everything else, so they've gotta
And
get
I
used
told
to
them, don't use initials.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
yes, because that's, doesn't look very professional. But if they just look at it, minutes of our previous meetings, say 5, 6 months ago or what,
Yep.
just follow that format.
Okay.
Because, I mean, they've worked for us, they've held up in court cases for
Exactly.
us.
These are,
you
this
know,
is
This
a,
held up in a
this
court
is a
case
legal
and everything,
document.
so,
litigation.
right.
Well, it's a legal
That's-
document required
So
under
we,
the
we
Freedom of
just had this at the
Information
inland
laws.
wetlands meeting, so if you have specific things that have to be changed, we do have to say what they are.
Yes.
So I get that one with the conditions for SAN LC. Is there any, other than the initials?
I don't,
Well, what do you mean? It's just what I mean, this has to be brought into compliance with what the tape is, what the meeting was.
right. I think, you know, look back at what we previously had used for minutes, and it may require going back and listening to the tape again
Okay.
and redoing them, but I think we can.
Well, if you saw anything else that's blaring that
Yeah.
needs to be
Yeah, I'll
changed, I
look
should have it right here, so.
I'm lucky to remember yesterday. We, going back to May 22nd, so. I'm done.
All right.
My soapbox.
So we can those until we get,
That's fine.
get them correct.
Yep.
All right, you got communicated. I just wanted to, I've got 2 articles here on this, problem over in,
Middlebury.
yeah. So I've got them here, so I'll just hand them out, and then we can just, we're gonna have to make a determination of what we're gonna do and follow up, because I think we need to get something
Yeah,
going on.
I've read them all and not very,
Yeah.
very good, very nice.
So,
Well, didn't we just informally discuss it? Let's just,
I mean, I think a letter, at least to our local representatives and the COG
and our organizations that can lobby on our
Right.
behalf on this. So Lance, something else to do, draft a letter on this topic,
and, I've got another one here.
taking
This was Sundays that,
Yeah, they both are really good articles, so.
This one that was in Fox American on
Yes.
June 17th.
yes, and then, Sunday, this last.
is that this one?
The, first one was the, June.
Oh, yeah, I got
18th.
that, yeah. What's the date of this one, George?
For 10 miles away
25th.
Oh, yeah, I see it, okay.
All right, just, if you wanna go over that, I just think it's worth,
Yeah, and I think we really need to try to support our legislators to get that rescinded if possible.
pay attention to what the hell's going
Yeah.
on down there. And this happens, you know, the last day or so.
They may not be able to do anything, but at least they can lobby.
Well, I think once it gets, you know, if it's already getting this kind of attention, once it gets up
Yes,
there, they'll
I
do
think
something
too.
with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that'll be-
It got snuck in, so that's,
Yes, it did.
it'll get taken care of, but
Yep, it
we have
will.
to be part of the voice.
No, I agree, because it,
Yep, just
On
gonna take
things
some
you
time
let
to
them
go.
happen to do something else.
Yeah.
Meeting to rescind it from that.
Yes.
Sure, sure. All right,
Hey, Lance, there was some discussion made, I just want to see if it's on your list, about that hydraulic report for the,
For ECAD.
for ECAD. Is that an actual hard copy report?
We should have had it in
Something-
our file with all the paperwork on the
I
last,
think there's one there from 2016, but
well, there should be
Okay,
on the
would you
20, on the 20.
Make sure we have that next, whenever that's coming up again, or whenever you want to get it to us. And in whatever form, if it's.
That's it,
Yeah.
No, I
There's
don't
a
know.
lot to do there.
Well, Jason Dismukes was the engineer. He did all the engineering. Jason Dismukes from Goshen. He was the one that, he's the engineer, dho did all the prints and everything for the 2021 project.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think he did the hydraulic studies. I think he had another,
But the last one that presented on the last application.
yeah, Jason Dismukes.
Yeah, he redid the whole
He
drainage.
redid the whole drainage, so the whole drainage pond is being changed, the whole design from what's presently there now. The
Is
2021
it
plan.
gonna help what's going on in this guy's property?
No.
Probably not, no.
I mean,
No.
that's permitted up there?
And,
Jeez,
and
that's-
the sad thing is
Bad.
it all runs down into Newfield Road.
Yeah.
And all over the road.
Yeah.
And,
How is that?
and across
that's
the woman's
permit-
property that just bought that house there, that's been totally redone before she bought it.
And that's
Runs-
permitted?
And then it runs down the road and washes out one of our firemen's driveways.
Right,
That
so
Public
that-
Works has to go up and
that's
fix the
okay?
driveway every time it rains. They'll be there tomorrow again.
Do we have any authority over that? That's what I want.
Wetlands blew it, bottom line.
Yeah, they did.
They did nothing, they did no site visits,
And
nothing.
so now you can't go back to that?
We can't.
Can they?
They gave approvals, so,
They could have been challenged, and nobody challenged them.
so.
They came
They
to
could have been
us.
challenged. Why didn't they do it right to start with? so
I
that
agree.
they
Look at the
could
minutes of
be like-
wetlands, they had very little discussion. There was more discussion about the CO that they didn't have than anything else. But I got a copy of the minutes with me. That's where it came up about the 4,000 cubic yards of material being hauled in to fill it in, raise it up 10 feet.
I also think there was a lot of political impetus
Well, there was certainly in
for that, for the
2016.
first and 16.
Oh, the
Absolutely.
first time, that was all done.
That was all, I mean, that was all taken care of by three
Yeah.
names, I'm not gonna get into
No.
it, but I mean,
No, it's true.
Yeah.
I was,
But anyways, where we are is where we are, but, and Charlene mentioned too, anything that you're gonna supply to us, maybe you can give us an email or something, just to give us a summary,
Okay.
in case there may be something else that we want, and that we've talked about, and got missed. And, because the next meeting's gonna be an important meeting, so that means we really gotta look at this ECAD thing, and really list things that we've talked about, so that if we're gonna.
I've got my list ready.
Well, I've got a list as well, but I just, what happened tonight, it's good to go through all that, but,
By the way, nice job tonight. I thought, first of all, kept it very calm. Second of all, I thought everybody who was here felt heard.
Yeah.
well, I think so too.
That was very good for the
Yeah.
I
public.
thought the conversation back and
Yes.
forth was fine. I thought Alan addressing them was fine. You know, I thought tonight went well.
Yeah.
But the problem
But
that's in this whole application is, he's representing that he's just doing a little bit of the
Right.
building. And when you're making a representation of a modification to a plan, you really gotta have all your act.
I agree.
Yes.
And Alan
But
wasn't
I feel
doing
bad for Alan, cause he's
Right,
just
just
got
focused on
the
the
building.
building. Mhm.
And he's not part of the whole
No.
plan and the property.
But that's the owner's problem.
No, exactly, and he wasn't here to discuss with us.
Well, Dale could be if you'd like him to be.
He was trying to,
I-
Sure.
he was trying to make nice for everybody, which is not
Right.
his area of
No.
responsibility.
But, you know,
Dale knows that he probably shouldn't come because then that'll become
Well,
a screaming match. But
I've got an issue with the driveway going across an adjoining property. Even though it's still owned by the same nonprofit, it's still technically not legal. So,
Well, that's something we ought to talk
Right.
with Elgin about, and see, but
Well-
he's kinda taking the back door off.
I mean, there's ways to make it legal, but either,
But isn't it worse that it doesn't comply with setbacks, so it's so close to somebody else's property?
Well, that driveway, you weren't up there with us.
No, I'm gonna go up there though.
you need to go up because
I'm going to.
without visiting the site,
Yeah,
sitting here discussing it,
yeah.
No, you gotta actually go up
Yes,
the driveway and
yes.
come back
Yeah.
down.
yep, you've gotta drive all the way up in and drive back down and,
Oh, can I do that?
yes, you
Or
can
It's
because
public?
it's open.
Oh, it's
Yep.
open.
You're a
Yeah.
public official.
yep. You're a public official.
Wow.
We went up there
It's
during
on
the
your
winter.
agenda,
That's a
it's got
different,
power.
that's different.
Yes.
Well,
But
You
if,
can't talk to anybody.
I always have that, but yeah.
yeah, no, you don't wanna have a meeting, but we went up
I
there
won't
in the
talk to
winter,
anybody,
and we
believe
went
me.
up to the house above there that looks down at this, and it's even more
The
complicated.
neighboring house, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right,
I find that new owner just, there's nothing on record that says he doesn't care.
I'm surprised he didn't come tonight because he has reached out to us that he has
He
concerns.
has issues with it.
Yeah, Michael.
Heard
He
that.
actually gave
He didn't
Jeff
wanna-
and I
what, did he
permission.
not wanna
Secondhand
contradict
from several
Alan's,
people that
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe he just couldn't make it, but
An issue with the building
Oh, okay, cool.
that high.
Yeah, no, we had
If
that
you
letter.
spent
Right.
$500,000 for a
Provided.
place or more, and your view was
Do we have all the
altered, changed,
pre-existing approved
you're gonna look at
conditions?
two commercial buildings. the same
Not
one.
pre-existing,
That
we
letter,
approved.
the May
That was the whole
23rd
thing with
letter?
the first
Yeah,
one.
May 23rd
It
letter,
was
but then
lower.
we have
Right.
Something from.
everything that we
And now
said
we're going
originally.
up in the air.
From 2016?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, let me
it's
ask you.
almost gonna be eyesight for him now.
The conditions
Exactly.
from
I mean,
the
it's gonna be-
2016
It's gonna be
approval.
your,
On his deck, he's just gonna be
This
looking at the top.
Commission approved it with
Right there.
conditions, correct?
we did.
And those
Do
are
we have
clearly
those?
defined.
Those are, that's in that.
No, that was the May 20.
I haven't been able to look
I
at
thought
it,
that was
but
the
I wasn't able to,
2021
no,
one.
well, what?
Yeah.
That he
the
had.
Driveway.
That,
No,
that,
because you'd end up in
Lance
wetlands
has it,
more.
I don't have that.
It's vague.
Because
Okay,
I wanna know
forgot
if those
about
are the
that.
There's
exact
about-
words.
I do.
They
I
are,
do-
Because-
yeah.
but they are vague, I agree.
Because we gotta hang on those words, right?
There's a
So
90
you mean the
curve.
conditions for, in
As soon as you hit that
2016 were
curve,
just,
you've got the
as
brook
you're saying,
that runs down
Adam, vague?
from there
Should.
up.
Well, like the fencing with vegetative.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I know, that's what the neighbors want, like this time around, to be more
But
specific.
even the plan though, the current plan that we
Wetlands that
have
approved the 12
shows
foot driveway
these
for a
plants,
single-family residence.
20-foot separation, not
That was
6
a field up there, that was an old farm.
Yeah, I was trying to, the pictures that I gave you guys, I didn't really know exactly how far.
That's where I argued
You
with.
can't put
Why
those
This
things
is the May,
I
I
know.
thought this is the May 2021.
Yeah.
I think he's just trying to shove a bunch of them in there.
Well, he's
Yeah,
trying to shove
right,
everything down.
From which meeting?
So
Because-
that should be
I
clearly
remember
stated,
you were.
that they need to be put in there based on that.
They were.
These are from the 2021, there was a 2016 approval, and there, were there conditions with that?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make a
Lance.
motion
Yes,
to
the
adjourn.
highway building,
Oh.
right in the building,
Second.
remember?
Before you do that, do you wanna talk about Scott Bashan at all?
Who?
That was the application that came in for a special permit. So he basically just told me he won't be coming back. So this was court appointed that he had to apply for the special permit for the earth excavation. He's saying he's not due,
LaPointe?
no,
No.
Okay.
No.
never mind.
So, for anybody who doesn't know, this has been going on since 2015, really. Okay, so 2000, it's Torringford Road is what the original address was. It's been changed to 257, 259, because he wants to approve for a house to building, and then he's trying to do the farm. So I gave him both addresses so he could work with. And plus he couldn't apply on our online licensing without having a street address. So anyway, so that's got corporate. We went to court last Thursday. It finally, I don't know why this didn't happen years ago, but basically we pulled the trigger, went to court.
The
Kevin
town
Milligan-
sued him?
We have sued him,
Yeah.
correct. And, Kevin basically focused on, the things that he's done is the earth excavation without any kind of permit, the building that was created in the back part of the property with no building permit, which Bill and I have already talked about, and we've decided we're not gonna make him tear it down, but he has to come in and get a building approval for that. But since he wants to build a pole barn and the house, he's just gonna do it as a combination, all three together. So we're working with him on that. And the last thing is,
But he's gotta build a house on it before he can build the other structures.
correct, he can't have, well, he's saying he's farm, so.
Doesn't matter.
I know. So what
He
happened
still has
was,
to build a house on it.
he applied last fall for farm status with the assessor's office. He got state recognition as 490. I don't know if he technically has state designation, but according to inland wetlands, whatever.
Is he haying the fields?
He did hay the field like one season and then it totally burned out. If you ever get a chance to see this property, I mean, he took every tree off the property in 2015.
But he has to have a farmer haying it, you know.
Well, the best part, and my question for him is, what did he do with all the brush? Because he obviously burned it all without any permits.
Yeah, or he's been chipping most of it.
Or goats.
But there was concern that he was burying stumps. I don't think that
I
was the
know,
case.
no.
But if you go out there, I mean, it's pretty, whatever the word is. I was shocked. I'll be perfectly honest. I was shocked the first time I went
Oh,
to
he's
the
done a
property.
lot in the last 10 years.
Yeah, And
You mean it's just
Oh, we
Just
were trying to
stripping the
even
land?
find them for a long
Doing what?
time.
Just cleared it and
okay.
excavated it and made fields out of it, and pond
and the
yeah.
fields are questionable in my
Well,
opinion.
yes.
They're there. He's now put in the
Well,
Christmas
it's fair
trees.
grounds, yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
like an Indian clearing land.
It's tough. So what is his thought is? Well, that's what he's trying to
Well,
do. He's trying
what
to get
transpired
rid
in
of the,
court
the
anyways?
store.
And
So he had to cease. He can't have any materials off the. Fucci is there right now, doing this project for Torrington High School. So they're taking the rock material off site. They have been. They had 100+ truckloads
Yeah,
coming
they're
in now.
out of there every day.
Yep.
No.
So we've had cease and desist orders for years, since
And he
2016.
just ignored them?
He's been ignoring
Yeah,
it.
We
he
didn't
doesn't
enforce
care.
it.
We didn't enforce, and then we didn't talk to him for over a year because I don't know, whatever
Couldn't
happened.
get a hold of them, couldn't find them.
I don't know.
That's what we're told.
So last
That's when-
November,
okay.
when I came into the picture, I was ready. I was like, let's just go to court. I had Josh's full support. I said, this is going on too long. Michael and Pam kind of talked me out of it, said that we can work with him compliance. But then when this most recent thing came up in March, he said, no, he's just going to keep doing what he wants to do.
Obviously.
So he's still hauling the material off-site.
Correct. Well, now he hasn't because there's been a hold.
So the court did stop it.
Yes. Well, he'll be in contempt if he does.
Right.
And we have Aaron who was ready to talk. If
Yeah, I
needed.
know, because he's been going
He's
after
been
Aaron.
testifying.
Yes.
Can you take away the 490, then he owes you all that back tax.
Right.
You yank the
So-
490, he owes you 10 years of tax.
And at assessor's office, we were kind of getting towards, okay, well, if he reapplies for the fall, he might qualify, but now she's doing a little more digging. She's saying he's got to show other things showing that it's farming practices, and he's resistant.
Yeah.
And he just said basically, because he's
So
not
when he
even
said
happy with now having to wait till June 10th for the public hearing, he said, we're just going to go back to court. And I was like,
Go ahead.
Good.
On
So
what?
when's his
On
next
what
court date?
basis?
I don't know.
Or he's
So it'll be
taking
on
us to
camera.
court.
Okay, that's just
So-
a lot. I mean, on what basis? We haven't had a public hearing or made a decision yet. There's nothing to go to
Well,
court
some,
on.
yeah, he just didn't understand how the process works.
Right.
Well, I told him. He understood.
No.
Well, he just doesn't want to
understand.
understand.
He doesn't want to understand it because there's been conversations with him in
Right.
the past, and the police have been there with the previous zoning official, building official. Had to have a police officer there.
It's kind of too bad. I thought we were getting close to a point where we could like, okay, this is going to be the compromise, but
So the compromise is we let him do what he wants.
Exactly.
right, that's what he wants.
Yeah, that's the compromise. He's not giving anything.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn?
Now you can
Second.
Wow.
All in favor?
Aye. We got overtime tonight, George.
Yeah, no
Time and a half, right?
Yeah, right.
After 9?
Yeah, right.
Well, you know, let's face it, that ECAD thing needed to be aired out like this.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, those
Yeah,
poor
they-
people.
Well, that's
It's
why I opened it
astonishing.
up
I
that
mean,
way, yeah.
Adam
because-
said he drove up there. I haven't been there yet. Adam said he went up there and was,
Amazing.
Isn't it?
and not in a
I
good
mean,
way.
you can drive up and down the road and you'll never know it
Yeah.
exists until you drive up in there and then see what.
I can't believe the road going up